Chapter 1340. After obtaining Hualao's confirmation, Duan Lingtian was excited for a long time. One must know that the strength of one's body would affect one's strength to a certain extent. If humans and dragons of the same cultivation-based techniques and Saint Veins were compared, the dragons would have the upper hand due to their strong bodies. If it was a 5-clawed divine dragon, it would not be a problem for him to cross ranks to fight an enemy. After a long time, Duan Lingtian finally calmed down. He asked again, "Hualao, how powerful are you now?" "I don't know." Hualao shook his head. "I'm not sure about the cultivation-based levels in this world. However, I only need to exhale a breath to kill that little devil dragon from before so that he can never be reincarnated." When Duan Lingtian heard Hualao's words, the corner of his mouth twitched violently. Exhale a breath to kill De Yong? One must know that De Yong was a powerful being at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. The golden-robed old man in front of him was merely the 3-legged golden crow, the pagoda spirit of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda who had yet to recover from his injuries. It seems like Hualao's strength must be above the saint stage. Duan Lingtian speculated. At the same time he was guessing, he felt a wave of excitement in his heart, and joy appeared on his face. Did this mean that from today onwards he would have a super fighter by his side? Before the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is fully repaired. Even if you're the owner of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, you can't let me leave the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. As though he saw through Duan Lingtian's thoughts, Hualao said in a timely manner. At once, Duan Lingtian felt as though a bucket of cold water had been poured on him. He completely sobered up and smiled wryly. How long will it take for the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to be fully repaired? Hualao, apart from the first level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda having a good cultivation environment and a slow flow of time, does it have any other benefits? Duan Lingtian asked, unwilling to give up. He was determined to squeeze out the remaining value of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. No. Hualao shook his head. Can't I hide in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, when I'm in danger? Duan Lingtian asked again, his face full of unwillingness. The 7 treasures jewel pagoda contained a universe within it. If one was in danger, one could hide in it and no one would be able to do anything to him. Before the 4th level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is repaired, if someone tries to flip the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda while you're inside, you'll be thrown out immediately. Hualao said. When that time comes, won't you be able to hold me back, Hualao, and prevent me from being blasted out? Duan Lingtian was still a little unwilling. I can't. Hualao shook his head. Hualao's reply completely dispelled Duan Lingtian's thoughts. You said before the 4th level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is repaired. Are you implying that after the 4th level is repaired, I won't be thrown out? Duan Lingtian recalled Hualao's words and could not help but ask. That's right. Hualao nodded. Why? Duan Lingtian asked again. Only at that time will the inner space of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda be more than half stable and not affected by the outside world. Hualao said, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda has a total of 7 levels. After 4 levels are repaired, the inner space will be more than half stable. After Hualao's explanation, Duan Lingtian was enlightened. I have to repair the 2nd to 4th levels as soon as possible. Duan Lingtian's heart jolted as he thought to himself. At that time he could be considered to have a protective talisman. No matter how powerful the enemy was, he could enter the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to take refuge. That's not right. Suddenly Duan Lingtian seemed to have recalled something and asked, Hualao. Back then, why didn't pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li Jing hide in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda? At that time the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda should be intact, right? Since it was intact, the space inside would naturally be stable and he could take refuge in it. At that time the enemy Li Jing faced was so powerful that it exceeded your imagination. Even if he hid in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, he couldn't escape death in the end. Not only that, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda would have fallen into the enemy's hands. When Hualao spoke up to this point, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. He was afraid of the enemy Li Jing faced at that time. I see. Duan Lingtian nodded. However, on this planet of yours, there shouldn't be anyone who can destroy the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Therefore, as long as you can repair the 4th level, it's equivalent to you standing in a place of immortality. Hualao said, of course, the prerequisite is that you can react in time and enter the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda before someone kills you. Duan Lingtian nodded. If there's nothing else, I'll begin repairing the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Hualao said to Duan Lingtian. Hualao, can I bring people into the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda? Duan Lingtian asked. You're the owner of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, so naturally you can bring people in as you wish. However, with your current strength, it's best that you don't expose the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda so easily to avoid being hated by others. Hualao said. Hualao, don't worry. The people I bring in will definitely be people I trust. Duan Lingtian said. That's good. I'm just giving you a suggestion. Hualao said again. Hualao, can I bring people into the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda by force? For example, if I encounter an opponent I can't defeat, I'll bring him in and you'll help me kill him. Duan Lingtian asked with an expectant expression on his face. This was something he had just thought of. Before the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is completely repaired, the people you want to bring into the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda won't be able to enter unless they're willing. Hualao's words completely dispelled Duan Lingtian's wretched thoughts. Duan Lingtian smiled bitterly. Hualao, do you mean that as long as the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is completely repaired, I can bring people in by force? Duan Lingtian asked again. A complete Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is a powerful immortal supreme treasure with both offensive and defensive capabilities. As long as it's not someone who's too much stronger than you, you can use the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to suppress him and lock him in there. Hualao said, as long as you lock him in, I can help you kill him. What if you can't beat him? Duan Lingtian asked with a strange look in his eyes. If I can't beat him, I'll hide on another floor. Anyway, he can only hang around on the floor where he's locked up. Hualao said in a straightforward manner. Duan Lingtian was speechless when he heard this. How could this work? Hualao, I have another question. Is it possible for me to return to planet Yanhuang in the future? Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and asked in a somewhat solemn tone. Planet Yanhuang was Earth. In the past, the hope of returning to Earth was slim. He suppressed the obsession in his heart to kill the guy who betrayed him. Now, when he encountered the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, his heart was restless again. It's not possible. It's definitely possible. Of course, the premise is that your strength must be improved. Only then can you return to planet Yanhuang. Hualao said. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard this. As long as his strength improved, he could return to planet Yanhuang? At this moment, Duan Lingtian only felt his heartbeat accelerate, and the blood in his whole body was boiling. At this moment he had a new goal. And this goal was to return to Earth. I hope you won't be so short-lived. Unknowingly, a cold light flashed in Duan Lingtian's eyes as he muttered to himself. Soon, Duan Lingtian's thoughts moved and in a flash he returned to the room. I really didn't expect I would meet you in this world. Looking at the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda in front of him, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but smile. He was in a good mood now. Soon the smile on Duan Lingtian's face froze. This was because he realized he couldn't put the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda into his spatial ring. Hualao, what's going on? Duan Lingtian used his voice transmission to pierce into the first level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and asked. The space in your spatial ring is only a low-level space and it can't store living things. However, I'm in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, so your spatial ring can't store it. Hualao explained. I almost forgot. Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly. He felt that he had lost his mind. He had long known that the spatial ring couldn't store living things. You can shrink the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and put it in your ear, just like how Monkey Sun hid his Jianghu bang. Just when Duan Lingtian didn't know how to deal with the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, Hualao's voice sounded again and reminded him. Monkey Sun? Jianghu bang? The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched when he heard Hualao's words. Hualao, the Monkey Sun you're talking about? Is it the great sage Heaven's equal, Sun Wukong, who once wreaked havoc in the Heavenly Palace? That's right. It's that horse protector. Hualao replied, that horse protector is amazing. Back then, when he wreaked havoc in the Heavenly Palace, Li Jing once suppressed him in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, but not long after, he escaped. Looks like the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda isn't much. Duan Lingtian said. It's not that the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda isn't much, but the person who used the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda isn't much. If it were the original owner of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, Horse Protector wouldn't have been able to escape. Hualao said. The original owner of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda? When Duan Ling Tian heard this, he began to search the memories of his previous life on Earth. The original owner of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda you're talking about is Dipankara Buddha? It's that old monk Dipankara, Walao replied. There was a hint of resentment in his voice. Duan Ling Tian was not surprised by the resentment in Hualao's voice. If the ancient legends in his previous life were true, Hualao was imprisoned in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda by Dipankara Buddha and became the pagoda spirit of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. No matter who it was, they would resent those who restricted their freedom. If that's the case, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is really not that simple. Duan Ling Tian nodded and asked, Hualao, I heard that the great sage Heaven's equal Sun Wukong's Rui Jingu Bang is also very impressive. I wonder how it compares to the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda? The Rui Jingu Bang is an immortal supreme treasure on the same level as the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. However, in terms of attack, none of the immortal supreme treasures can compare to it. Chapter 1341. If I'm lucky enough to meet the great sage Sun Wukong in the future, my life would not be in vain. Duan Ling Tian exclaimed. The great sage Heaven's equal, Sun Wukong, was definitely the most popular character in the ancient myths and legends of his previous life. You might have a chance in the future. Hualao said, however, you're still too far away from that level now. Don't think too much about it, just cultivate well. After Hualao finished speaking, he did not make a sound and went to repair the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Duan Ling Tian nodded. After shrinking the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to the size of a baby's fingernail, Duan Ling Tian casually stuffed it into his ear and stuck it inside. This way, no matter what he did, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda would not fall out. When he walked out of his room, Duan Ling Tian saw the 2 little girls sitting together and chatting. The 2 girls' eyes lit up when they saw Duan Ling Tian coming out. Scoundrel, you rushed back to your room when you came back earlier? Did you have a realization and a breakthrough in your ability? Li Fei asked curiously. Yes. Duan Ling Tian nodded with a smile. He did not tell them about the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda for the time being. It was too unbelievable to the 2 girls. It was better to let them know about it in the future. Young master, you've broken through to Emperor Wu Stage 7? Ker's beautiful face was filled with admiration. Yes. Duan Ling Tian nodded again. He did not tell them that he had broken through to Emperor Wu Stage 9. If he did not know how frightened the 2 girls would be. Duan Ling Tian only parted ways with the 2 girls after spending half a day with them. I'm going to look for the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. He left as soon as he finished his sentence. Speaking of which, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were gathered together. Vice Island Masters. Duan Ling Tian took the initiative to greet the 3 of them as soon as he appeared. Island Master. Although the 3 Vice Island Masters, including Xiao Kuan, refused to accept Duan Ling Tian as the new master of Half Moon Island, they dared not disregard Duan Ling Tian as they were bound by the oath. However, when they addressed Duan Ling Tian, the new island master of Half Moon Island, they did not address him as Lord. For example, they addressed Di Yong as Lord Island Master, with great respect. Humph. Duan Ling Tian coldly snorted. His sharp gaze fell on the 3 of them as he said in a deep voice, It seems that the 3 of you don't really respect me, the new island master. Facing the enraged Duan Ling Tian, the 3 of them directly ignored him. I'll give all of you a chance. The 3 of you will join forces to fight me. If you can withstand 3 of my moves without being defeated, I'll give up my position as the island master of Half Moon Island. Duan Ling Tian said, If that's the case, you won't be breaking your oath. Xiao Kuan and the other 2 did not expect Duan Ling Tian to say that. They were a little surprised at that moment. There was a glimmer of hope in the depth of their eyes. If they had a choice, naturally they did not want to be inferior to Duan Ling Tian. However, if all of you lose, I hope that you'll respect me as much as you respect Di Yong. Duan Ling Tian said coldly. Sure. Xiao Kuan and the other 2 agreed immediately without any hesitation. In their opinion, Duan Ling Tian was like a newborn calf who was not afraid of a tiger. Defeating them in 3 moves? What a fool's dream. They more or less knew Duan Ling Tian's ability. Although he was not bad, he was still a long way away from them. Seeing that Xiao Kuan and the other 2 had agreed, Duan Ling Tian snorted. He raised his hand and a royal great spirit bow and arrow appeared. He held the bow in one hand and the arrow in the other. As soon as the bowstring appeared, Duan Ling Tian pulled the bowstring into the shape of a full moon before releasing the arrow in his hand. Whoosh! Instantly, the arrow pierced through the air like a bolt of black lightning. Body and arrow synchronization. At the same time, Duan Ling Tian strode forward and landed lightly on the black lightning bolt. His speed became faster and faster as he moved with the black lightning. In the end, he turned into a series of afterimages in front of Xiao Kuan and the other two. At this moment, Xiao Kuan and the other two's expressions turned grave, putting everything else aside. Based on Duan Ling Tian's current speed, he was no longer inferior to them. However, they still did not think that Duan Ling Tian would be able to defeat them. Based on the speed that Duan Ling Tian displayed, Duan Ling Tian's ability was, at most, on par with any one of them. It was almost impossible for him to defeat the three of them together, let alone defeat them in 3 moves. Let's go. After the three of them glanced at each other, they moved in unison. With a speed that was not inferior to Duan Ling Tian when he executed the body and arrow synchronization, they shot in 3 different directions and formed a circle that flashed towards Duan Ling Tian. This is a good opportunity to test how strong my body is now. Faced with the 3 menacing opponents, Duan Ling Tian's expression did not change. A faint 5-colored light shield slowly appeared around his body to protect him. If one looked closely, one would see that the 5-colored light shield was formed by 5-colored divine dragons that were moving at high speed. 9 Dragons Protection. The skill that Duan Ling Tian was using was the Heaven-class advanced defensive martial skill that came with the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. After the 5-colored light shield rose, Duan Ling Tian stopped moving. The arrow at his feet was back in his hand. You're courting death. Seeing that Duan Ling Tian had stopped moving and was holding up a defensive light shield to block their attack, Xiao Kuan and the other two could not help but sneer inwardly. Their movements did not slow down at all as they shot out like lightning. Boom, 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 boom. 3 figures flashed towards Duan Ling Tian from 3 different directions at lightning speed. They either used their fists or palms, and when they waved their hands, it set off a series of thunderous air explosions. In the blink of an eye, their fists and palms landed on the 5-colored light shield around Duan Ling Tian's body. Bang, 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 bang. As the loud sounds reverberated, waves of rolling shockwaves were emitted, and the 5-colored light shield shattered. At the same time, Xiao Kuan and the other two's attacks landed on Duan Ling Tian's body. Bang, bang, bang. 2 fists and 1 palm landed on Duan Ling Tian's body, making 3 dull sounds. On the other hand, Duan Ling Tian's expression did not change. He was calm and composed. So this is the body that's even more powerful than a 5-clawed divine dragon's body? The 3 of them are at the peak of Emperor Wu stage. They didn't use any spirit weapons. Their fists and palms only felt like they were tickling me when they landed on my body after a portion of their strength was offset by my defensive martial skill. Duan Ling Tian's heart jolted. He finally realized how terrifying the changes in his body were. Duan Ling Tian knew his current strength very well. The reason his speed was on par with Xiao Kuan and the other two's was because he had cast the body and arrow synchronization from the Saint-grade martial tactic, Colossal Aerolite Arrow. He had already cultivated the body and arrow synchronization to the fundamental awareness stage. As for his defense, it was impossible for him to block Xiao Kuan and the other two's attacks since he did not cast any defensive techniques from the Saint-grade martial tactic. However, he managed to block them now. All of this was because his body's defense was very strong. His body was no longer comparable to the body of an ordinary human Emperor Wu. With the help of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, he was reborn. According to Hua Lao, his body was even stronger than a 5-clawed divine dragon. In fact, the strength of a 5-clawed divine dragon's body was well known even in the Dao Martial Saint Land. In the entire Dao Martial Saint Land, there were only a handful of people whose body was comparable to a 5-clawed divine dragon. How's this possible? Horror dawned on Xiao Kuan and the other two's faces when they realized their attacks were blocked by Duan Ling Tian's body. They looked at Duan Ling Tian as though they had seen a ghost. Although a portion of their attacks were blocked, the energy contained in it was still extremely terrifying. They thought Duan Ling Tian would be severely injured even if he did not die. However, the result was completely out of their expectations. Duan Ling Tian was not injured at all. Was he still King human? Was a human's body so monstrous? Now it's my turn. Duan Ling Tian said nonchalantly. His voice was calm, but it shocked Xiao Kuan and the other two's faces. When they regained their senses, they saw Duan Ling Tian had already shot an arrow at lightning speed. He had also flown away with the arrow in just a blink of an eye. They sighed in relief when they saw this. However, soon after, they saw Duan Ling Tian suddenly turned around when he moved to the side. His eyes were extremely sharp when he looked at them. At the same time he raised the bow in his hand. Oh no! Horror dawned on the three's faces as they hurriedly took out their respective spirit weapons. They knew Duan Lingtian was going to counterattack. First move. The moment the three's spirit weapons entered their hands, before they could dodge, Duan Lingtian's calm voice resonated in their ears again. It sent chills down their spines. Arrowlight strike. At the same time the arrow in Duan Lingtian's hand flew out. It was so fast that Xiao Kuan and the other two did not even have time to react. Whoosh, whoosh. 2 streaks of blood splattered. Xiao Kuan and the other Vice Island master of Half Moon Island had their shoulders pierced, leaving behind 2 hideous bloody holes. Blood gushed out continuously. Just one arrow had injured 2 people. The 2 injured men looked at each other, a bitter smile on their lips. They knew very well that Xiao Kuan was merciful. This was after the other party had shown mercy. Otherwise the arrow just now would not have pierced through their shoulders but their chests. Second move. When the last Vice Island master of Half Moon Island regained his senses and began to flee, Duan Lingtian spoke again and shot out the arrow in his hand. Arrowlight strike. Since he could injure 2 people with 1 arrow, it was even easier to injure 1. In the blink of an eye, the shoulder of the last Vice Island master of Half Moon Island was also pierced. 3 people were defeated in 2 moves. Relying on the movement technique that he had cultivated to the first stage of the Saint Grade martial tactic Novice Initiation, Duan Lingtian's speed was on par with Xiao Kuan and the other 2. Relying on his strong body, Duan Lingtian could withstand the attacks of Xiao Kuan and the other 2. Relying on the attack technique that he had cultivated to the second stage of the Saint Grade martial tactic, Intermediate, Xiao Kuan and the other 2 could not withstand Duan Lingtian's attacks at all. Island Master. At this moment, while Xiao Kuan and the other 2 were shocked, they were also convinced. They sincerely regarded Duan Lingtian as the new Island Master of Half Moon Island. Chapter 1342. There's something I need all of you to do. Duan Lingtian spoke calmly and ordered Xiao Kuan and the other 2 to send people to look for materials to repair the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Apart from using Half Moon Island's strength, we also need to use the strength of the other 3 overseas Saint Islands. I'll be going on a long trip soon. I'll inform the other 3 overseas Saint Islands and Hidden Fog Island. As for the other 2 overseas Saint Islands, I'll leave them to you. Duan Lingtian's words contained an indisputable tone. He left as soon as he was done speaking, leaving Xiao Kuan and the other 2 with his back to them. Our new Island Master of Half Moon Island is too terrifying. Xiao Kuan sucked in a breath of cold air. That's right. It's only been such a short time and his ability has already surpassed ours. I suspect he's not human at all. If he's human, how could he withstand our attack with his body? The other 2 Vice Island Masters gasped as well. They were shocked from the bottom of their hearts when they recalled the earlier scene. When Duan Lingtian left, he had a lot of thoughts in his mind. Now that my cultivation base has broken through to the 9th level Emperor Wu stage, due to the fact that the profundity that I've comprehended is slightly weaker. In terms of origin energy and profundity, I'm far from Xiao Kuan and the other 2. However, I've cultivated the Saint Grade martial tactic, Colossal Aerolite Arrow. The movement technique in the Colossal Aerolite Arrow that I've cultivated to the fundamental awareness stage has made up for the difference in speed between me and them, allowing my speed to be on par with theirs. Also, with my current body, as long as they don't use spirit weapons, I'll be able to withstand their attack with brute force. Of course, this is also because they haven't cultivated the Saint Grade martial tactic. If they had cultivated the Saint Grade martial tactic, my body definitely wouldn't be able to take it when they cast the offensive techniques in it. Among the Colossal Aerolite Arrow, the Aerolite Strike is the first technique that I've cultivated. It's also the highest level of offensive technique currently. With it, my attack power far surpasses Xiao Kuan and the other 2. The battle just now allowed Duan Lingtian to have a better understanding of his own strength. The most important thing now is to elevate the 2 profundities. I heard from Xuanai that the martial artists on Cloud Continent must first comprehend one of the Emperor stage profundities to the 9th level if they want to break through to the mortal shedding stage. At that time, I'll use the 9th level Emperor stage profundity as a medium to fuse all the profundities into my body and use them as a boost to open my Saint Veins. Once a Saint Vein is opened, it means that one has broken through to the early mortal shedding stage. Any 9th level Emperor Wu powerhouse who had comprehended a 9th level Emperor stage profundity was known as a peak Emperor Wu powerhouse. For example, the 3 Deputy Island Masters of Half Moon Island. The first Island Masters of the 3 overseas Saint Islands were also experts of this level. After returning to the mansion, Duan Lingtian learned that Han Xuanai was in closed-door cultivation. According to the three little fellows, Han Xuanai was breaking through to the mortal shedding stage. All of you get ready. When your sister Xuanai comes out of closed-door cultivation, we'll return to Cloud Continent. Duan Lingtian said to Little Black, Little White and Little Gold. The three little fellows' eyes lit up when they heard that. They had long wanted to leave this godforsaken place. On Cloud Continent, apart from the powerhouses from the two great ancient clans, there was almost no one who was more powerful than them. Therefore they were like fish in water on Cloud Continent. They could do whatever they wanted. However, when they arrived at Half Moon Island, they realized that there were many people who were more powerful than them on this palm-sized island. For the next period of time, apart from accompanying the two little girls, Duan Lingtian spent the rest of his time comprehending the fused profundity and the sword profundity in peace. Soon, Duan Lingtian discovered something that shocked him. He realized that no matter if it was comprehending the fused profundity or the sword profundity, the speed at which he comprehended it was terrifyingly fast. It only took him half a month to break through the fused profundity and the sword profundity. It took him another 2 months to break through the two profundities again. Huolao, do you know what's going on? Duan Lingtian could not help but ask Huolao. He had a feeling that this had something to do with the second rebirth of his body. Huolao's answer was just as he had guessed. His body had been reborn for the second time. Not only was his body's strength stronger than the five-clawed divine dragon, but his perception was also much stronger than before. It was not something an ordinary person could compare to. According to Cloud Continent's saying, the speed at which one comprehended profundity depended on the level of one's comprehension. In fact, it depended on one's perception. Those with strong perception would comprehend profundity very quickly. On the contrary, it would be very slow. This was also the reason why the original island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, could break through to the mortal shedding stage so quickly even though he did not enjoy the cultivation resources of the dragons. As a five-clawed devil dragon, a top five-clawed divine dragon, his perception was extremely terrifying due to his powerful body. However, Duan Lingtian's body was even more powerful than his at this moment. Naturally, his perception was even more terrifying. When Han Xuanai came out of closed-door cultivation, Duan Lingtian's sword profundity had taken a step forward. He had comprehended the 8th level Emperor stage sword profundity. Xuanai, you've broken through? Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up as he looked at Han Xuanai, whose childishness had faded a little and whose temperament had changed drastically. Yes. Han Xuanai nodded with a smile. How many Saint Veins have you opened? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. 10. Han Xuanai replied. The moment her words left her mouth, the smile on her face grew wider. She had opened 10 Saint Veins at the early mortal shedding stage. Such innate talent was considered outstanding even in the Dao martial Saint land. One should know that when a martial or Dao cultivator at the mortal shedding stage opened Saint Veins, the more Saint Veins they opened. Han Xuanai had opened 10 Saint Veins when she was at the early mortal shedding stage. In the 4 subsequent breakthroughs, she opened more Saint Veins at each level compared to the previous ones. When she was at the intermediate mortal shedding stage, she could open at least 11 Saint Veins. When she was at the mastery mortal shedding stage, she could open at least 12 Saint Veins. And so on. When Han Xuanai broke through to the paramount mortal shedding stage, she could open at least 60 Saint Veins. 60 was just a conservative estimate. Martial or Dao cultivators in the Dao martial Saint land who had opened more than 50 Saint Veins would break through to the Saint stage sooner or later as long as they did not die prematurely and did not encounter any accidents. Due to this reason, Han Xuanai was very satisfied and happy. After all, although she was a native of the Dao martial Saint land, she did not cultivate according to the cultivation method of the natives of the Dao martial Saint land. Her cultivation method was the same as the cultivation method of the martial and Dao cultivators on the mortal continent. The advantage was that her foundation was deep. Of course, her cultivation speed was slow as well. However, her efforts were rewarded. Breaking through to the early mortal shedding stage and opening 10 Saint Veins was the best reward for her. Xuanai, congratulations. Duan Lingtian was slightly shocked. After that, he quickly congratulated Han Xuanai. He was happy for her. Opening 10 Saint Veins at the early mortal shedding stage. Xuanai's future was limitless. Thank you, brother Lingtian. At this moment, Han Xuanai could not stop smiling. Since Xuanai had come out of closed-door cultivation, Duan Lingtian told her about his plan to return to the Cloud Continent. I plan to move the Lingtian sect to Half Moon Island when I go back this time. Half Moon Island is indeed the best place to cultivate outside of the Dao Martial Saint Land. With this place as the foundation, the Ling Tian sect will become a real super sect sooner or later. Han Xuanai agreed with Duan Lingtian's plan. She already had feelings for the Ling Tian sect. During the days when Duan Lingtian was missing, she was the acting sect leader of the Ling Tian sect. She controlled the Ling Tian sect on behalf of Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian left Half Moon Island with Han Xuanai and the two girls, the three little fellows and Han Xuanai. After leaving Half Moon Island, they did not return to the Cloud Continent directly. Under Duan Lingtian's lead, the group of people went to the Hidden Fog Island again. They immediately found Tang Zhen, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island. Island Master Tang? Where's first revered Elder Chi Hua of the Hidden Fog Island? Duan Lingtian went straight to the point. Seeing that Han Xuanai was next to Duan Lingtian, Tang Zhen, who had witnessed Han Xuanai killing the first island master of Coral Island with a Dao talisman, did not dare to be negligent. Elder Chi Hua was taken away by the people from the Dao Martial Saint Land some time ago. People from the Dao Martial Saint Land? Duan Lingtian frowned. What about the girl he brought back from the Cloud Continent? She was taken away as well. Tang Zhen said. People from the Dao Martial Saint Land. Why did they take them away? Han Xuanai asked. I think it's because they used to have the fire spirit body. I'm not sure about the details. Tang Zhen said. I see. It seems like one of the forces from the Dao Martial Saint Land has taken a fancy to their fire attribute innate talent. Han Xuanai nodded. When she reached the end of her sentence, she muttered to herself as though she had figured out something. As someone from the Dao Martial Saint Land, it was only natural that she knew some things that ordinary people did not know. Xuanai? However, Duan Lingtian was confused. He did not know what was going on at all. Brother Lingtian, Sister Tianwu must have been taken in by one of the forces from the Dao Martial Saint Land. That force must have taken a fancy to her innate talent of having the fire spirit body. Han Xuanai said. Didn't the fire spirit body's energy in her body disappear a long time ago? Duan Lingtian frowned. Brother Lingtian, I've already told you that she used to have the fire spirit body. Han Xuanai interrupted Duan Lingtian and emphasized the word, used to. The body of a person who used to have the fire spirit body will be affected and become more inclined towards the fire attribute. Whether it's the fire attribute cultivation method or the fire attribute Saint grade martial tactic, this kind of person's progress will be much faster than ordinary people. Han Xuanai continued. I see. At this moment, Duan Lingtian finally understood. As it turned out, Tianwu's innate talent was taken in by one of the forces from the Dao Martial Saint Land. Do you know which force in the Dao Martial Saint Land it is? Chapter 1343. Even Tang Zhen, the island master of Hidden Fog Island, did not know which force in the Dao Martial Saint Land had taken Feng Tianwu away. Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh. However, one thing's for sure. Tianwu is safe now. Duan Lingtian secretly sighed in relief when he thought of this. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian asked Tang Zhen to help him look for the materials he needed to repair the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. Whether it was out of fear of Han Xuanai's methods or Half Moon Island's prestige, Tang Zhen did not dare to slack off when it came to Duan Lingtian's request. He immediately ordered the entire Hidden Fog Island to search for the materials. When Tang Zhen found out that Duan Lingtian had become the new island master of Half Moon Island, he was so shocked that he could not regain his senses for a long time. At this time, Duan Lingtian also found out that the group of Emperor Wu and Demon Emperor powerhouses from Cloud Continent had returned to Cloud Continent. Whether it's the 3 overseas Saint Islands or the 3 great mortal continents, including Cloud Continent, all of them suffered great losses during the trip to Half Moon Island. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. The scene that had happened before his eyes was still vivid in his mind. The original island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, had used his devil technique to absorb the vital essence and killed 85 outstanding powerhouses in their prime from the 3 overseas Saint Islands and the 3 great mortal continents. Soon after, Duan Lingtian and the rest left Hidden Fog Island. After leaving Hidden Fog Island, they returned to Cloud Continent directly. Along the way, Han Xuanai, the powerhouse at the early mortal shedding stage, brought Duan Lingtian and the rest. Their speed was so fast that Duan Lingtian could not compare to it. When Duan Lingtian came, it was Yang Hui, the spirit profound Emperor Wu, who brought them along. Yang Hui's cultivation base was only at the 4th level Emperor Wu stage. In terms of speed, he was a far cry from Han Xuanai. With Han Xuanai's speed, It only took a few days for Duan Lingtian's group to traverse the vast sea and smoothly return to Cloud Continent. Along the way, because their speed was too fast, they didn't even alarm the powerful demonic beasts in the sea. After Duan Lingtian and the others arrived at the northern outer continent of the Cloud Continent, they continued on their journey. They passed through the Ruoshui River and successfully arrived at the inner land of the Cloud Continent. Xuanai, I would like to ask the two great ancient clans to help me find those materials. After returning to the mainland, Duan Lingtian said to Han Xuanai. It's a small matter. Han Xuanai smiled casually. To her, getting help from the two ancient clans was indeed a trivial matter. Little gold, little black, little white, go and ask the other Yao emperors for help. Duan Lingtian said to the three kids. All right. The three kids' eyes lit up. To them this was a fun thing. If any Yao emperor or Emperor Wu dared to refuse to cooperate, they would have an excuse to attack. They had been on Half Moon Island for such a long time that they were bored out of their minds. Duan Lingtian was confident in the strength of the three little fellows. Even if they encountered the most powerful Qingshen Emperor Wu and Demon Emperor Man Wu on the surface, they might not be a match for them. Moreover, Qingshen Emperor Wu knew them and would definitely cooperate with them. As for Demon Emperor Man Wu, after witnessing Han Xuanai's techniques, even if he was more powerful than them, he would not dare to refuse to cooperate with them. After Han Xuanai and the three kids left, Duan Lingtian brought the two girls to the Lingtian sect's new encampment. He had already found out the location of the Lingtian sect's new encampment from Han Xuanai. The new encampment of the Lingtian sect was a towering mountain peak. Han Xuanai named it Lingtian Peak. I'll bring you back to pay respects to senior sister Yang Shui first. Duan Lingtian reached out his hands and held the two girls' hands tightly. He brought them all the way to the Lingtian sect's encampment. The original encampment of the Lingtian sect was also where the Yin-Yang sect used to be. When Kerr and Li Fei heard Duan Lingtian's words, their eyes turned red. At this moment, they couldn't help but think of their senior sister who sacrificed her life for them. Feeling that the two girls' emotions were a little unstable, Duan Lingtian held their hands a little tighter. At the same time, he comforted them. If senior sister Yang Shui knew that you two were still alive and well, she would be able to rest in peace even in the underworld. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian brought along the two little girls and flew swiftly like a shooting star that soared through the sky. His speed was so swift that it was shocking. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, a loud sound rang out and entered the ears of Duan Lingtian and the other two. The sound was getting closer and closer. It was the sound that came from in front of Duan Lingtian and the other two. It was obvious that someone was fighting. Duan Lingtian didn't intend to pay attention to it. However, as a loud and clear voice sounded, it caused him to abruptly stop in his tracks. Following that, his expression became solemn. Qiyu, today is the day you die. This thunderous shout was also the reason why Duan Lingtian stopped. Qiyu. Kerr and Li Fei looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. They were not unfamiliar with this name. They still remembered it. When Duan Lingtian and the other two were talking about their past, they had mentioned a third-rate force in the eastern region of the northern desert in the southern outer land of Cloud Continent. That third-rate force was a sect called the Five-Element Sect. The Five-Element Sect was divided into 5 peaks: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Among them, the peak master of Wood Peak was called Qiyu. Their man had a deep relationship with the Five-Element Sect's Wood Peak. Could it be just a coincidence? Li Fei asked. Whether it's a coincidence or not, we'll know once we go and have a look. Duan Lingtian replied. In just a blink of an eye, he brought the two girls to the place where the sound of fighting was coming from. There were 3 sturdy middle-aged men besieging a person. In the sky, the heaven and earth phenomenon was turbulent. Silhouettes of ancient black dragons gathered and galloped. However, such a scene could not be seen in the 4 overseas Saint Islands. However, Duan Lingtian's attention was not on this. Peak Master Qiyu? Although Duan Lingtian could only see the back of the person besieging the person, he could still recognize him with just a glance. He was the former Peak Master of the Five-Element Sect's Wood Peak, Qiyu. That person who had helped him a lot in the past. Currently, Qiyu had suffered quite a serious injury while being besieged by 3 people. He was in a perilous situation. If this continued, it would not take long for him to be killed. After confirming that the person before him was Qiyu, Duan Lingtian vanished into thin air. When he reappeared, he was already next to Qiyu. Boom. At the same time, a vast and rolling shockwave swept out and blasted the 3 people besieging Qiyu away. The 3 of them shot out like arrows that were shot out from a bow. They were battered and exhausted. Along the way, blood continued to spurt out from their mouths. The blood splattered across the sky, and it was extremely dazzling. After flying for a distance, the three of them finally came to a halt. Their faces were as pale as a sheet of paper. It was only after they consumed the healing medicinal pill that their injuries were slightly better. Who are you? Subsequently, the three of them regained their senses. Their eyes were filled with fear and dread when they looked at Duan Lingtian. The three of them were the Demon Emperor's direct disciples. However, they were easily sent flying by a person. It was obvious that this person's cultivation base was at the Emperor's stage. It was either the Demon Emperor or Emperor Wu. At this moment, Qiyu had also consumed the healing medicinal pill and recovered his breath. Initially, he thought he would definitely die today. However, he did not expect someone to save him. After he recovered his breath, the first thing he did was to look at his savior. "Thank you, benefactor, for saving." However, he was stunned before he could finish his sentence. He recognized the purple-clad young man in front of him with just a glance. Compared to the past, he did not seem to have changed at all. If there was anything different about him compared to the past, it would be the change in his temperament. Currently, his temperament was unfathomable in his eyes. Duan Ling. Qiyu looked at Duan Lingtian in disbelief. His voice was filled with astonishment. When Duan Lingtian saw that Qiyu was so shocked that he could not even call out his name, he smiled and interrupted him. "Peak Master Qiyu, it's been a long time. I can't believe that you've already entered the peak of the martial monarch stage when we meet again." "So what if I'm at the peak of the martial monarch stage? Compared to you, I'm not even worth mentioning." Qiyu sighed. His gaze was complicated. Previously, when he first met Duan Lingtian, he did not think much of Duan Lingtian's strength at all. Moreover, with his strength at that time, he only needed to lift a finger to crush Duan Lingtian. However, he was ashamed of his inferiority when it came to Duan Lingtian's martial Dao innate talent. When they parted ways at the entrance of the Emperor Wu's secret treasure, he knew that Duan Lingtian would shock him the next time he met Duan Lingtian. However, it did not cross his mind that Duan Lingtian would shock him to this extent when they met again. All these years, he felt that the improvement of his strength could be considered as good. Currently, he had even broken through to the peak of the Emperor Wu stage. He was only one step away from breaking through to the Emperor Wu stage and becoming an Emperor Wu powerhouse. However, even then he still could not compare to the current Duan Lingtian. Needless to say, he could guess that Duan Lingtian's cultivation base had already broken through to the Emperor Wu stage. Otherwise, he would not have been able to send the three people who had joined forces to attack him flying in just an instant. If only one of these three people was a match for him, they would not be able to defeat him at all. However, he would not be able to handle the three of them when they joined forces. Earlier he thought he would definitely die. However, he did not expect that someone would save his life at the critical moment. This person was none other than Duan Lingtian. "The three of us are Lord Demon Emperor Man Wu's direct disciples. May I know which Lord Demon Emperor or Emperor Wu you are?" One of the three muscular middle-aged men cupped his hands and asked Duan Lingtian. When he mentioned Demon Emperor Man Wu, a hint of arrogance could be seen on his face. Demon Emperor Man Wu was one of the two strongest Emperor stage powerhouses on Cloud Continent. Among the Demon Emperor powerhouses on Cloud Continent, he was second to none. No demon could compare to him. As a direct disciple of Demon Emperor Man Wu, it was only natural that he was proud of himself. Demon Emperor Man Wu's direct disciple? Duan Lingtian glanced at the three of them indifferently and said, "You don't deserve to know who I am. However, since you've injured Peak Master Qiyu, I'll let Peak Master Qiyu decide your fate." Chapter 1344. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, horror dawned on the three direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu. Arrogant. Too arrogant. This was the only impression they had of the purple-clad young man before them. "Peak Master Qiyu, what are you going to do to them?" Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Qiyu. "We're Demon Emperor Man Wu's direct disciples. If you dare to touch us, our master won't let you go." Before Qiyu could reply, horror dawned on the three direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu as they screamed at Duan Lingtian and Qiyu. During this period of time, one of them even tossed out a communication jade slip. At this moment, this was the only thing they could do. They did not dare to run at all. In front of this powerhouse who was either a Demon Emperor or Emperor Wu, they would most likely be killed in just a blink of an eye if they dared to run. He even threw out a communication jade slip? Is it for Demon Emperor Man Wu? Duan Lingtian studied the three of them with great interest. His expression remained unchanged. It was as calm as before. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, horror dawned on the three of them. They had screamed at the top of their lungs to attract Duan Lingtian's attention so that Duan Lingtian would not notice the communication jade slip. They did not expect Duan Lingtian would still notice the communication jade slip. At the same time, the origin energy on their bodies surged. Their profundities followed closely behind as they looked at Duan Lingtian vigilantly. A hint of despair could be seen in the depth of their eyes. Demon Emperor Man Wu. Horror dawned on Qi Yu's face. He had been in the inner land of Cloud Continent for quite some time. He had heard of Demon Emperor Man Wu and knew that he was the most powerful demon emperor on Cloud Continent. It did not cross his mind at all. The three demon monarchs who were fighting him were Demon Emperor Man Wu's direct disciples. Duan Lingtian, let's go. Qi Yu immediately sent a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian to ask Duan Lingtian to flee. In his opinion, even if Duan Lingtian was an expert like Emperor Wu, he was still no match for Demon Emperor Man Wu. After all, Demon Emperor Man Wu was the strongest demon emperor on Cloud Continent. However, Duan Lingtian did not seem to have heard Qi Yu's words. Instead, he looked at the three of them with great interest. It seems like all of you are very confident in your master. In that case, I'll wait for him here. Wait for him to come. When Duan Lingtian said this, Qi Yu's expression changed again. He thought that Duan Lingtian had lost his mind. On the other hand, the three people opposite him sneered, thinking that Duan Lingtian was seeking his own death. Time passed quietly. Qi Yu, who was originally burning with anxiety, gradually became numb. Why is Duan Lingtian still so calm? Did he know Demon Emperor Man Wu? You know that Demon Emperor Man Wu won't attack him even if he comes? Qi Yu could only come to this conclusion when he saw Duan Lingtian's calm expression. As for the thought of Duan Lingtian defeating Demon Emperor Man Wu, he did not even dare to think about it. Subconsciously, he thought it was impossible. Time continued to pass quietly. Half an hour later, Duan Lingtian suddenly lifted his head and looked at the sky. At the same time, a figure as strong as a bull and as tall as an iron tower appeared before his eyes. It was Demon Emperor Man Wu, whom he had seen a few times overseas. What's going on? As soon as Demon Emperor Man Wu appeared, he saw Duan Lingtian. After frowning, he asked his three direct disciples. Master. His three direct disciples greeted him respectfully before they looked at Duan Lingtian in unison and said, Master, it's him. He wants to kill us. Master, he intentionally waited for you to appear. It's obvious he doesn't think highly of you. While they were complaining, they were also fanning the flames. Demon Emperor Man Wu's expression turned grave when he heard this. The trip to Hidden Fog Island and Half Moon Island earlier had caused him to lose a few outstanding direct disciples. Due to this reason, he valued the remaining few direct disciples very much. Now that he heard someone wanted to kill his direct disciples, he was completely enraged. However, although he was enraged, he did not lose his mind. He began to scan his surroundings as though he was looking for something. There's no need to look. The person you're worried about isn't here. Naturally, Duan Lingtian knew what Demon Emperor Man Wu was looking for. It was none other than to see if Han Xuan'ai was by his side or not. Previously, when Han Xuan'ai killed the first island master of Coral Island with a Dao talisman, Demon Emperor Man Wu was present as well. He had witnessed it with his own eyes. Due to this reason, he was wary of Han Xuan'ai. You want to kill my direct disciples? Demon Emperor Man Wu's expression turned cold when he heard that Han Xuan'ai was not around. He glared at Duan Lingtian and asked coldly, Aren't you going to ask me why I want to kill them? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. There's no need to ask. No matter who it is, anyone who wants to kill my direct disciples will have to pay the price. Demon Emperor Man Wu enunciated each word clearly. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness as though he was about to devour someone. His personality of protecting his disciples was clear for all to see. How domineering. As expected of Demon Emperor Man Wu. Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly with a hint of mockery in his tone. Duan Lingtian, I admit that your innate talent is not bad. Unfortunately, you're nothing in front of me now. Demon Emperor Man Wu's expression turned gloomier. When he reached the end of his sentence, he was filled with disdain. Yes, one must know one's place. However, I think it's even more important to know one's place as a demon. What do you think? Duan Lingtian asked calmly. Demon Emperor Man Wu's expression remained unchanged. Faced with Duan Lingtian, who was not afraid of him, the furious Demon Emperor Man Wu's heart skipped a beat. It was as though a bucket of cold water had been splashed on his head. He sobered up a little and thought to himself, what makes this Duan Lingtian so audacious? Demon Emperor Man Wu began to observe his surroundings again. Duan Tian could not help but laugh when he saw Demon Emperor Man Wu's actions. However, he did not say anything to Demon Emperor Man Wu. Instead, he looked at Qiyu and said, "Peak Master Qiyu, if you want to kill the three of them, I can do it on your behalf at any time." As soon as Duan Tian finished speaking, the expressions of Demon Emperor Man Wu's three direct disciples changed drastically. On the other hand, Qiyu was shocked. At this time, Duan Tian still dared to say that he wanted to kill the three direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu. "Peak Master Qiyu, I'll take your silence as a yes. Since that's the case, I'll kill the three of them to avenge you, Peak Master Qiyu." As soon as Duan Tian finished speaking, he glared at the three direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu with a cold glint in his eyes. "You're deliberately mystifying things." Demon Emperor Man Wu, who had confirmed that there was no one around, snapped back to his senses. He glared at Duan Tian and shouted in a low voice. When he noticed Duan Tian's killing intent toward his three direct disciples, horror dawned on him as he flew out. Unfortunately, he was still too late. Bang, bang, bang. With three explosions, the three direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu exploded into a bloody mist, leaving behind three spatial rings and a pile of profundity fragments. After catching the spatial rings and profundity fragments, Duan Tian raised his hand and used an invisible force to guide them to land in front of Qiyu. Clearly he wanted to give these spoils of war to Qiyu. Duan Tian. At this moment, Demon Emperor Man Wu, who was enraged by the death of his three direct disciples, was on the verge of going berserk. He roared and charged toward Duan Tian. At this moment, it was as though he had transformed into a primordial beast with his mouth wide open. It was as though he would not stop until he had devoured Duan Tian. Umph. Duan Tian snorted in the face of Demon Emperor Man Wu, who was charging toward him. His expression did not change at all. It was not until Demon Emperor Man Wu arrived in front of him that he finally made a move. He raised his hand and a strong bow appeared in his hand out of thin air. Then he placed his hand on the bowstring. Buzz. As he pulled the bowstring into a full moon and released it, a loud noise reverberated in the air. It was accompanied by a rolling and vast shockwave that tore through the sky and met Demon Emperor Man Wu's attack head-on. In just a blink of an eye, Demon Emperor Man Wu's attack was completely neutralized by the shockwave. Not only that, but the vast shockwave also landed on Demon Emperor Man Wu and sent him flying. Demon Emperor Man Wu flew for dozens of meters before he finally came to a stop. He held back the blood that almost flowed out of his mouth. After he caught his breath, he forced the blood back into his stomach. Even at this moment, he still tried his best to maintain his image. However, his pale complexion betrayed him. Demon Emperor Man Wu took a deep breath and consumed a healing pill. His injuries finally eased a little. When he regained his senses and looked at Duan Tian again, there was only fear in his eyes. At this moment, he had completely given up on avenging his three direct disciples. What a joke. The strength that Duan Tian had displayed earlier was far from what he could compare to. No matter how hard he tried, he would not be able to avoid a tragic death. Therefore he chose to give up. Perhaps this way he could escape death. Duan Tian, I didn't ask clearly earlier. Now that I think about it, the three of them must have offended your friend. It's understandable that you killed them. In order to survive, Demon Emperor Man Wu took the initiative to admit defeat. At this moment, there was only shock in his heart. He had never expected this. He did not know when this purple-clad young man, whom he had not taken seriously in the past, had become stronger than him. The strength that Duan Tian had displayed earlier was far from what he could compare to. Since it's a misunderstanding, let's end this matter here. Duan Tian said. He had no intention of making things difficult for Demon Emperor Man Wu. All right. Demon Emperor Man Wu hurriedly nodded. He could not wait for such an ending. However, there's something that I want to ask for your help with. I'm sure you won't refuse, right? Duan Tian said without beating around the bush. The two of them who had been at each other's throats a moment ago were now sitting together and chatting calmly. Seeing this, Qiyu was stunned. Of course not. Demon Emperor Man Wu hurriedly shook his head with a smile on his face. As for what was behind the smile, only he knew. Demon Emperor Man Wu, if you can do your best to help, I'll consider how to reward you. If you can help, I'm willing to take out the Saint Stone to thank you. Chapter 1345. Duan Tian promised Demon Emperor Man Wu a Saint Stone. As long as Demon Emperor Man Wu could find the materials he needed, he was willing to give Demon Emperor Man Wu a Saint Stone. Naturally, Demon Emperor Man Wu was overjoyed. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, Demon Emperor Man Wu bade farewell and left in a hurry. Scoundrel, why didn't you kill him? Li Fei frowned. She did not like Demon Emperor Man Wu's arrogant attitude. Keeping him alive is 1,000 times better than killing him. He's the strongest demon emperor on Cloud Continent. His influence is extraordinary. With his help, the efficiency of searching for materials will be much higher. Duan Lingtian said. Demon Emperor Man Wu, I'm afraid all the demons in the inner land of Cloud Continent will work for him if he gives the order. Kerr said softly. That's exactly what I want. Duan Lingtian nodded. Whether it's the two great ancient clans or Qing Shen's Emperor Wu, they might be the best in terms of rallying power among human martial artists. However, those wild and unruly demons wouldn't pay any attention to them. With Demon Emperor Man Wu's help, it'll naturally be different. This was the reason Duan Lingtian was willing to promise Demon Emperor Man Wu a Saint Stone. In the eyes of the demon beasts in the inner land of Cloud Continent, Demon Emperor Man Wu was no doubt an emperor. Who would dare to disobey an emperor's order? Moreover, demon beasts were more efficient than human martial artists in searching for materials. Demon beasts lived in the wilderness, so they might have seen the materials in the past and know where to find them. Duan Lingtian was doing his best to repair the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Naturally, he was also doing his best to repair the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda as soon as possible. According to the 3-legged golden crow Hualao, even if he only repaired the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, he would still be able to obtain the Celestial Supreme Treasure, the Jasper Celestial Sword. The Jasper Celestial Sword was an offensive Celestial Supreme Treasure with extraordinary power. In addition, Duan Lingtian also learned that, as long as he repaired the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, he would be able to ascend to the 1st level to cultivate. The 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had an even better cultivation environment. In addition, the flow of time was even more exaggerated. 3 days in the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was only 1 day in the outside world. Therefore, regardless of whether it was for the Jasper Celestial Sword or for a better cultivation environment, Duan Lingtian wanted to help Hualao repair the 2nd floor of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda as soon as possible. Qiyu stood aside, speechless for a long time. His gaze descended upon Duan Lingtian, and it was extremely complicated. The arrogant and unruly young man in the past had already achieved so much. Even Demon Emperor Man Wu, who was known as the strongest demon emperor on Cloud Continent, was not a match for him. Peak Master Qiyu, how did you offend Demon Emperor Man Wu's personal disciple? Duan Lingtian looked at Qiyu and asked curiously. It's all because of this spirit artifact. Qiyu waved the narrow sword in his hand and smiled wryly. The narrow sword looked very ordinary, but it exuded a fierce aura as though it could tear everything apart. With just a glance, Duan Lingtian recognized it. It was a royal-grade spirit sword. After searching through Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, Duan Lingtian soon found out that this was one of the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's works. This sword is a treasure. Duan Lingtian smiled. You can tell? Qiyu was a little surprised. In fact, even he only knew how extraordinary this sword was after he used it. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded and changed the topic. Peak Master Qiyu, did you travel alone in the inner land? You didn't join any sect or family? No. Qiyu shook his head. I left the 5-element sect because I didn't want to be tied down. After all these years, I've gotten used to being idle. That's not bad. However, you still have to be careful when you travel outside. Especially the sword in your hand. Don't let other people see how extraordinary it is so that it won't cause any trouble. Duan Lingtian reminded Qiyu. In the future, Peak Master Qiyu, if you're tired outside, you can go to the Lingtian sect anytime. When you arrive at the Lingtian sect, you just have to say that you're my friend. Duan Lingtian said. Lingtian sect? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Qiyu's eyes narrowed. Are you talking about the number 1 sect on Cloud Continent, the Lingtian sect? I've long heard that Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of Lingtian sect, has gone missing. Everyone in Lingtian sect is looking for him everywhere. Don't tell me that you're the sect leader of Lingtian sect? Although he had long heard that the sect leader of Lingtian sect was also called Duan Lingtian, Qiyu thought it was just a coincidence. In his opinion, no matter how high the innate talent of the Duan Lingtian Qiyu knew it was impossible for him to become the sect leader of the number 1 sect on Cloud Continent in just a few years. He thought that he was just a person with the same name as the Duan Lingtian Qiyu he knew. However, now that he heard Duan Lingtian's words and recalled the strength that Duan Lingtian displayed earlier, he could not help but associate the Duan Lingtian Qiyu knew with the sect leader of Lingtian sect. Yes, the Lingtian sect is my sect. Duan Lingtian nodded. At the same time he seemed to have recalled something and continued to say, the two brothers, Nangong Chen and Nangong Yi, are currently in the Lingtian sect as well. Nangong Chen and his brother were the direct disciples of the sect leader of Five Element sect. Initially they were at Lingshen Peak where the spirit profound Emperor Wu Yanghui cultivated. According to Xuanai, they went to the Lingtian sect after that. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect that Duan Lingtian Qiyu would actually be the sect leader of the #1 sect on Cloud Continent. Qiyu sighed as he shook his head. Qiyu shook his head and sighed. In the end he asked solemnly, Duan Lingtian, your current cultivation base should be above the 8th level Martial Emperor stage, right? As far as he knew, Demon Emperor Man Wu was at the 7th level Demon Emperor stage. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded his head. After that, both of them chatted for a while before parting ways. Before that, Duan Lingtian introduced the two girls to Qiyu. Qiyu could not help but exclaim, Duan Lingtian, you're really a winner in life. Wasn't that so? Not only did Duan Lingtian have a heaven-defying innate talent, but he was already standing at the peak of Cloud Continent at such a young age. Even his two fiancées were one in a million beauties. After parting ways with Qiyu, Duan Lingtian brought the two girls and continued to head to the original Yinyang sect's estate. That place was still considered as the Lingtian sect's estate. However, it had already become a branch. Two people were in charge of this branch. Duan Lingtian had already heard about this from Xuanai when they were still on the road. These two people were also the ones who were unwilling to leave back then. Xiong Quan and Gold Thug. Young Master. Master. Xiong Quan and Gold Thug were a little excited when they saw Duan Lingtian again. In fact, the reason they stayed here was because they stubbornly believed that Duan Lingtian would definitely return. Now Duan Lingtian had indeed returned. Miss Kerr, Miss Fei. Subsequently, Xiong Quan looked at Kerr and Li Fei and greeted them respectfully. He was no stranger to Kerr and Li Fei. He knew that they were his young master's fiancées. His young master had spent a lot of effort to search for these two girls. However, he did not find them in the end. Mistress. With Xiong Quan's reminder, Gold Thug regained his senses and quickly bowed to Kerr and Li Fei. Kerr and Li Fei nodded. While they forced a smile on their faces, a hint of anxiety could be seen in their eyes. Seeing how anxious the two girls were, Duan Lingtian brought them to the wooden house where Yang Shue's body was placed. With the ice coffin, Yang Shue's body was still intact. Senior sister. When the two girls saw the white-clad lady lying in the ice coffin, two streams of tears rolled down their beautiful faces. There was only guilt on their faces. After all, Yang Shui had died protecting them. Senior sister, the scoundrel has avenged you. You can rest in peace in the netherworld now. Li Fei said softly. Senior sister, Sister Fei and I are fine. Don't worry, we'll live well and not let you down. Kerr was sobbing. Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian shook his head and sighed before he left. In the next few days, Duan Lingtian did not disturb the two girls and allowed them to accompany Yang Shui. During this period of time, apart from cultivating, he also refined some pills for Xiong Quan and Gold Thug. As Duan Lingtian's people, Han Xuanai did not treat them badly after she became the acting sect leader of Lingtian sect. Due to this reason, their cultivation base was not low at all. 10 days later, 3 figures stood at the peak of the former Yin Peak of the Yinyang sect, which was now Lingtian Peak. They were none other than Duan Lingtian, Kerr, and Li Fei. In front of them stood 2 tombstones. One of the tombstones was Yang Shue's tombstone. The other tombstone belonged to the former Vice Peak Master of Yin Peak of the Yinyang sect, who was also the master of Kerr, Li Fei, and Yang Shui. The Vice Peak Master of Yin Peak of the Yinyang sect was also the elder sister of Peak Master Qin Xiang of the 7-Star Sword sect. Duan Lingtian had never seen her before. However, she was the master of the two girls after all, and she was very good to them. Due to this reason, he still bowed to her tombstone. Facing Yang Shue's tombstone, Duan Lingtian bowed solemnly. Senior sister Yang Shui, thank you. If it wasn't for you risking your life to protect them, I might not have been able to see these two girls. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he bowed deeply. After Yang Shui was buried, Kerr and Li Fei guarded her tomb for another 3 months. During these 3 months, they just sat cross-legged in front of the tombstone and waited quietly. It made Duan Lingtian's heart ache. 3 months was enough for many things to happen. Duan Lingtian's strength had improved. In terms of sword profundity, he had successfully comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity. In terms of fused profundity, he had comprehended the 8th level fused profundity. Now I can be considered to have entered the peak of the Emperor Wu stage. As long as I can use the sword profundity as a medium to merge the two great profundities into my body and open up a saint vein, I'll be considered to have entered the mortal shedding stage. Chapter 1346. Duanling Tian still could not figure out what the fused profundity was. Back then, when the 5 monarch stage nature profundities were fused together, it became the fused profundity. Its power was comparable to an emperor stage profundity. Puzzled, Duanling Tian decided to ask the 3-legged golden crow Hualao in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. After entering the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, Duanling Tian saw Hualao sitting cross-legged in the air with his eyes closed. He did not know if he was cultivating or resting. When Duanling Tian entered, Hualao had already opened his eyes. Duanling Tian asked the question in his heart. Profundity? Hualao raised an eyebrow. It was his first time hearing this term. After all, the cultivation system was more or less different in every place. Profundity was just a term used on Cloud Continent. Perhaps, it was not the same in the other 2 mortal continents. It's this energy. When Duanling Tian raised his hand, the 5-colored energy gathered and transformed into a 5-colored ball of light that hovered in the air. This is the fused profundity I'm talking about. Also, this is the sword profundity. Duanling Tian raised his other hand as well, and a translucent sword that emitted waves of fierce aura hovered above his palm as it spun continuously. So, this is the profundity you were talking about? Hualao glanced at it and nodded. The profundity you mentioned is similar to the 5 elemental qi on planet Yanhuang. Once the 5 elemental qi completely fuses into one's body, one's potential will be stimulated, and one's strength will increase by leaps and bounds. Duanling Tian's eyes lit up when he heard Hualao's words. What Hualao said was similar to the meaning of the profundity. According to Xuanai, once the profundity completely fused into one's body, one would be able to open up a saint vein. At that time, the profundity would become a part of one's body and no longer be independent. This was similar to the 5 elemental qi that Hualao mentioned. Your sword profundity seems to have reached the limit of the 5 elemental qi. As for the fused profundity, it seems to be reaching its limit. However, I can clearly feel that it still has a lot of potential that hasn't been unearthed. Elder Hu's gaze landed on the 5-colored ball of light floating in the air. As he spoke, a hint of doubt appeared on his face. A lot of potential? Duanling Tian's heart jolted when he heard that. He thought to himself, don't tell me, the current fused profundity is only at the monarch stage? Profundity, profundity, profundity? The more he thought profundity, 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 the more to Ling Tian's. Wasn't this a little too ridiculous? The profundity was poised profundity. If it could be upgraded to the profundity, 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 how powerful would it be? 10 times more powerful than the profundity, profundity? What did that mean? Duanling Tian felt goosebumps all over his body when he thought about it. If it's possible, I hope you can make a breakthrough after you've fully unearthed the potential of the fused profundity. At that time, the benefits you'll reap will be unimaginable. Hualao pondered for a moment before he said to Duanling Tian, wait until I've fully unearthed the potential of the fused profundity? Duanling Tian frowned. If the 8th level fused profundity that he had comprehended was only at the 8th level monarch stage fused profundity, would he not have to comprehend the 9th level emperor stage fused profundity to fully unearth the potential of the fused profundity? From the 8th level monarch stage fused profundity to the 9th level emperor stage fused profundity. Heavens! How long would that take? However, Duanling Tian believed Hualao's words. Who was Hualao? The 3-legged golden crow. The divine sun bird from the ancient myths and legends in his past life. To put it bluntly, there was no reason for someone like that to lie to him. Moreover, he was the owner of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda now. As the pagoda spirit of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, it was impossible for Hualao to harm him. There was no reason for him to do so. Duanling Tian took a deep breath and voiced his concerns. The time needed to comprehend the 9th level emperor stage fused profundity was too long. It's true that it'll take a little longer. However, you can cultivate in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Time passes slower in there. Hualao told Duanling Tian, on the first level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, 2 days inside is only 1 day outside. Also, if you can find enough materials, I'll be able to repair the second level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. At that time, when you cultivate on the second level, 3 days inside is only 1 day outside. Hua Lao continued. That's the only way. Duan Lingtian nodded. He had decided not to use the 9th level sword profundity as a medium to open the hidden saint veins in his body for the time being. He would wait until he had comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage Fuse profundity. Fuse profundity. I only hope you'll give me a pleasant surprise when the time comes. Duan Lingtian comforted himself inwardly. He knew that from the moment he made this decision, he was destined to open the saint veins a little later to break through to the mortal shedding stage. At the same time, a strong premonition rose in Duan Lingtian's heart. His decision might affect the number of saint veins he opened in the future. In this case, I should have a chance to surpass Wang Ba. Wang Ba opened 23 saint veins at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. Even Xuanai won't be able to open 23 saint veins when she breaks through to the intermediate mortal shedding stage. She'll only be able to open 22 saint veins at most. The Wang Ba that Duan Lingtian mentioned was, naturally, Wang Ba. He was also the current Di Yong who had left Half Moon Island and gone to the Dao Martial Saint Land. The reason he was so confident was that he was no longer who he was in the past. Not only had he undergone a second rebirth, but his foundation was also extremely solid. What a joke. In terms of foundation, what else could compare to the fused profundity? I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be great if I can open 81 saint veins. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed. He was having a sweet dream in his heart. It was a dream that he subconsciously thought was impossible to come true. In fact, in the long history of the Dao Martial Saint Land, there were only 3 people who had opened 81 saint veins. Although he had not experienced it himself, he could roughly guess how difficult it was to open 81 saint veins. This was due to Hua Lao's reminder and his determination. In the next period of time, Duan Lingtian focused all his attention on comprehending the fused profundity. Comprehending the fused profundity was the only thing he could do now. No matter if it was his cultivation base or his sword profundity, he had already reached his limit. There was no way he could continue to improve it. What a coincidence. The sword Dao comprehension that originated from the word, sword, in my mind was completely digested when I comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity. Duan Lingtian muttered, it seems like it's time to go back and take a look at the word, sword. I wonder if my profundity of the sword will continue to improve when I see the word, sword, again and comprehend more about the sword Dao. In terms of the sword profundity, Duan Lingtian had already comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity. Logically speaking, he had already reached his limit. However, in Duan Lingtian's opinion, the word, sword profundity, was different. However, the word, sword, could not be looked at with common sense. He had a deep understanding of this in the past. The 2 girls guarded Yang Shui's coffin for 3 months. They only left after 3 months had passed and returned to Duan Lingtian's side. Let's return to the southern outer land. After informing the 2 girls, Duan Lingtian bade farewell to Xiong Quan and the gold thug, and left with the 2 girls. Although Xiong Quan and the gold thug wanted to leave with Duan Lingtian, they dismissed the thought when they thought of Ke and Li Fei. Would it not be tactless to follow them at this time? Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls and passed through the vast and boundless Ruoshui River before they arrived at the southern outer land. After returning to the southern outer land, Duan Lingtian sighed as he recalled the past. At this moment he recalled the Lu clan that was annihilated by the Han clan. The Lu clan that he had stayed in for a period of time was gone just like that. Ke and Li Fei stayed by Duan Lingtian's side quietly without saying a word. At this moment, silence spoke louder than words. If the Han clan's disciple who annihilated the Lu clan was still alive, Duan Lingtian would immediately find him and kill him to avenge the Lu clan. However, the Han clan's disciple had already died in Han Xuanai's hands. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian could only reminisce about the Lu clan in the past. As long as Lu Bai's still around, the Lu clan's roots are still intact. I'll help him rebuild the Lu clan this time. At this moment, Duan Lingtian recalled Lu Bai. Lu Bai, the second young master of the Lu clan, was also a survivor after the Lu clan was annihilated. After that, he crossed the Ruoshui River to the inner land and entered the Ling Tian sect and became a member of the Ling Tian sect. After letting out another long sigh, Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls and left the land of Beiki in the southern outer land. With Duan Lingtian's current speed, it did not take long for him to step onto a familiar land. The northern desert. Previously, when he first left the Dark Han dynasty, He came to the northern desert to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties organized by the third-rate force Skywolf Fort in the northern desert. When the martial competition of the 10 dynasties began, he truly stepped onto the stage of Cloud Continent. Looking back, Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh even though he had lived 2 lives. Without staying in the northern desert, Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls back to the Darkhan dynasty, to the Darkstone Empire, to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, and finally to the 7-Star Sword Sect. After a few years, the 7 sword peaks in the 7-Star Sword Sect's estate that soared into the sky had also returned to how it used to be. It did not look like the sect had been annihilated. High up in the sky, Duan Lingtian stood there and looked at the 7 sword peaks. A hint of nostalgia flashed in his eyes. On the other hand, the 2 girls standing next to him had their eyes red. They were so emotional that their delicate bodies began to tremble slightly. They had left this place for far too long. When they left, they would never have thought that this would happen. Chapter 1347. Kurg go see Peak Master Qin Xiang? She surely missed you very much these past few years. Duan Lingtian said to Kerr. Kerr nodded when she heard Duan Lingtian, then flew out and directly entered Dubby Peak, the head of the 7 great sword peaks. Scoundrel, I want to erect a tombstone for Master and Senior Sister. Li Fei said in a light voice. Even though she'd long since found out from Duan Lingtian that her 7-Star Sword Sect's Master Elder Bai and Senior Sister, Zhuqing, had already died. But now that she was reminded of the past, she still felt slightly sad. I've already erected the tombstone that day. It's at Elder Bai's original cultivation place. Duan Lingtian said. At that time, when the 7-Star Sword Sect was rebuilt, he and the current sect leader of the 7-Star Sword Sect, Mou, and the others had erected tombstones for the 7-Star Sword Sect higher-ups that had passed away. Scoundrel. Li Fei felt sorrow from the bottom of her heart when she heard Duan Lingtian, and she threw herself into Duan Lingtian's embrace as 2 streams of clear tears flowed down to wet Duan Lingtian's clothes. But Duan Lingtian didn't mind. He hugged Li Fei with one hand, and his other hand patted Li Fei's soft and smooth back. Little Fei. Elder Bai and Senior Sisters Wuqing surely don't wish to see you like this. Under Duan Lingtian's consolation, Li Fei's mood gradually recovered. Subsequently, Li Fei and Duan Lingtian went to Alcade Peak together, and they went to Elder Bai's original cultivation place. Although no one had lived in Elder Bai's original cultivation place for many years, the environment inside was still the same as before. Those flowers and plants were obviously frequently trimmed by people. Mou is quite considerate. Duan Lingtian nodded. He knew that it was surely Mou who asked people to frequently trim the flowers and plants here. In front of the wooden house there were 2 tombstones. It was precisely the tombstone of the former Alcade Peak's Elder Bai and her disciple, Zhuqing. Master, Senior Sister. Scoundrel has taken revenge for both of you and rebuilt the 7-Star Sword Sect. All of you can rest in peace in the underworld. Li Fei stood in front of the tombstone and said softly. Her tears kept falling, making her look very pitiful. Duan Lingtian stood to the side, looking at the 2 steels in front of him in a daze. At this moment, the scenes of the 7-Star Sword Sect being annihilated appeared in his mind. Even now, when he recalled that scene, his heart couldn't help but tremble. Although he'd already taken revenge for them, it was impossible for them to come back to life. They'd left him and the 7-Star Sword Sect forever. Duan Lingtian silently bowed deeply towards Elder Bai and Zhuqing's tombstones. Elder Bai, Senior Sisters Wuqing? Rest assured, I will take good care of little Fei. Duan Lingtian spoke to the 2 tombstones. After paying their respects to Elder Bai and Zhuqing, Duan Lingtian and Li Fei left Alcade Peak and once again returned to the expanse of space they stood in when they came here. When they arrived there, Duan Lingtian instead noticed that Kerr had already returned. There was a familiar figure by Kerr's side. Qin Xiang. The peak master of the 7-Star Sword Sect's Alcade Peak. Compared to that year, the current Qin Xiang hadn't changed much. This was sufficient to show that she'd taken good care of herself. After all, only by breaking through to the martial monarch stage would one be able to maintain one's youth forever. Before the martial monarch stage, although the higher one's cultivation was, the slower one aged. But if one didn't take care of it, the traces of time would still be left behind on one's appearance. Duan Lingtian, you really don't intend to see the sect leader? Qin Xiang's gaze was extremely complicated when she saw Duan Lingtian once more. Earlier, she'd already heard Kerr speak of the accomplishments Duan Lingtian had obtained in these past few years, and she even knew that Duanling Tian was now the sect leader of the number 1 sect on Cloud Continent. Besides shock, there was only shock in her heart. That little fellow from all those years ago had actually already stood at the peak of Cloud Continent at this moment. When she recalled the past, she even had a feeling as if she was dreaming. If they knew about this in the netherworld, they would surely be able to close their eyes in peace. Qin Xiang thought to herself. They naturally referred to the group of 7-Star Sword Sect members that had perished along with the annihilation of the 7-Star Sword Sect, including the former sect leader of the 7-Star Sword Sect, Linghu Jinhong. Not for now. The 7-Star Sword Sect will always be the 7-Star Sword Sect. Duanling Tian shook his head as he spoke. Yes. Qin Xiang nodded, as she was naturally able to discern the meaning behind Duanling Tian's words. It was undoubtedly because he didn't want to interfere with the future of the 7-Star Sword Sect. If the members of the 7-Star Sword Sect knew that Duanling Tian was now the sect leader of the number 1 sect on Cloud Continent, the Ling Tian sect, they would surely hope that the 7-Star Sword Sect would submit to the Ling Tian sect. At that time, the 7-Star Sword Sect would become a vassal of the Ling Tian sect, existing in name only. Yet that wasn't something that Duanling Tian wanted to see happen. Master, you're really not leaving with me? Kerr looked at Qin Xiang with an expression of reluctance. Although her current cultivation far surpassed Qin Xiang, but as the saying goes, a master for a day is a mother for life, the kindness of teaching her in the past was something that she didn't dare forget for her entire lifetime. Earlier, Kerr had advised Qin Xiang to leave, but was refused by Qin Xiang. Kerr, I know you're filial. However, I've spent most of my life in the 7-Star Sword Sect and I can't leave it. Qin Xiang held Kerr's hand lovingly and said gently, when you have a child with Duanling Tian, remember to come back and visit me often. Kerr was so embarrassed that her cheeks flushed when she heard Qin Xiang's words. Under Qin Xiang's gaze, Duanling Tian left with the 2 little girls. In just a blink of an eye, they had already appeared in the sky above the Crimson Sky Kingdom, an affiliate kingdom of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. The Crimson Sky Kingdom was their hometown. Duanling Tian's purpose for returning this time was very simple. He wanted to visit his old friends and ask them if they were willing to leave with him and head to the overseas Saint Island, Half Moon Island. After returning this time, Duanling Tian brought the 2 little girls to the Imperial City's Divine Might Marquis estate to meet the 2 old marquises. The reason he said there were 2 old marquises was because Wu Tian, the former Divine Might Marquis, had already retired. The current Divine Might Marquis was Fun, the junior marquis back then, and he was also Duanling Tian's big brother Nye. Time flew by and the world changed. Duanling Tian was deeply moved by his return this time. Not only did Fun have a house full of children, but even Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun also had a house full of children. What was worth mentioning was that Li Xian, the former little fatty, also had 3 sons and a daughter. Besides that, Duanling Tian made a trip to the Imperial Palace to meet the old emperor. The old emperor who was valiant in the past was getting old, and he had already passed on the throne a few years ago. Duanling Tian, do you know when Bai Yao will be back? The old emperor asked as he looked at Duanling Tian anxiously. The Bai Yao that the old emperor mentioned was naturally the former number 1 beauty in the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city, Princess Bai Yao. I don't know either. However, if I see her, I'll ask her to come back to see you. Duanling Tian replied. Good. The old emperor's face was filled with smiles when he heard this. Princess Bai Yao was his most sensible daughter, and he loved her dearly. Even those princes could not compare to her. If Princess Bai Yao was a man, he would have passed the throne to her long ago. Father and mother are really too much. They actually took Princess Bai Yao away. Duanling Tian could not help but smile wryly when he thought about Princess Bai Yao's whereabouts. Not only Princess Bai Yao, but his father and mother had also taken Xiao Yu's sister, Xiao Lan, away as well. When he met Xiao Yu earlier, Xiao Yu had also asked about Xiao Lan's whereabouts, but he really did not know anything about it. To be more precise, although he knew Xiao Lan was in the Dao Martial Saint Land, he did not know where in the Dao Martial Saint Land she was. Unfortunately, the voice transmission jade slip in the exquisite jade box was damaged by me. Otherwise, I'll definitely be able to see Mother, Xiao Lan, and Princess Bai Yao when I arrive at the Dao Martial Saint Land and meet with the person that Father has arranged for me. Duanling Tian could not help but sigh when he thought about this. Originally, in the voice transmission jade slip that Duan Ruffing had left for Duanling Tian, he had told Duanling Tian to look for the person that he had arranged for him somewhere in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Unfortunately, the voice transmission jade slip was damaged, and the most important part was lost. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian did not know where to look for the person that his father had arranged for him. Currently, even if Duan Lingtian went to the Dao Martial Saint Land, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack if he wanted to look for his father. After leaving the Imperial Palace, Duan Lingtian went to Paladin Academy to see the dean, Sima Changfeng. Sima Changfeng was his teacher in Paladin Academy. Although he did not teach him anything, he had helped him a lot. He had always been grateful to him, so he had always treated him as his teacher. "Little fellow, what level has your cultivation reached now?" Sima Changfeng asked directly when he saw Duan Lingtian again. This was the thing that interested him the most every time he saw Duan Lingtian. "Emperor Wu stage 9th level." Duan Lingtian smiled. "Pooh." When Sima Changfeng heard Duan Lingtian's words, he spat out the tea that he had just sipped. His face was slightly flushed as he asked, What did you say?" "A martial Emperor Wu stage. 9th level Emperor Wu stage?" "Yes, teacher." Duan Lingtian nodded solemnly. When Sima Changfeng heard this, he studied Duan Lingtian from top to bottom as though he was looking at a monster. He muttered, "Although I knew you're a freak, I didn't expect you to be so freakish. Emperor Wu stage 9th level. That's the limit a martial artist can reach, right?" Sima Changfeng had long heard that the peak of a martial artist was the Emperor Wu stage. Once one had broken through to the Emperor Wu stage, one would be an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse. An Emperor Wu stage powerhouse was an existence that stood at the peak of Cloud Continent and looked down on all living things. To him, an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse was an existence that only existed in legends. However, the little fellow standing before him, his former student, was actually an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse. Moreover, he was an existence at the 9th level of the Emperor Wu stage. At this moment he wondered if he was dreaming. Chapter 1348. In the past, I also thought that the 9th level Emperor Wu stage was the limit of a martial artist. However, this is not the case. Duan Lingtian sighed. "What do you mean by that? Don't tell me there's someone more powerful than an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse?" Sima Changfeng asked with a glare. In his opinion, an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse was a legendary invincible existence. However, Duan Lingtian said that the 9th level Emperor Wu stage was not the limit. In other words, there was no doubt that there was someone more powerful than an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse. "Teacher, in our Cloud Continent, the 9th level martial Emperor realm is indeed considered to be at the peak. However, outside of the Cloud Continent, there's an even bigger world." Duan Lingtian patiently explained to Sima Changfeng about the things outside of the Cloud Continent, including the 4 great overseas Saint Islands, the other 2 mortal continents and the Dao Martial Saint Land. As Duan Lingtian patiently explained, Sima Changfeng listened in a daze. At the same time, his heart was filled with shock. A frog at the bottom of a well, a frog at the bottom of a well. It seems like I, Sima Changfeng, am indeed a frog at the bottom of a well. After listening to Duan Lingtian's explanation, Sima Changfeng let out a long sigh with a self-mocking expression on his face. "I should say that more than 99% of the people in the Cloud Continent are frogs at the bottom of a well. That includes me in the past." Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. "Teacher, I came back this time mainly to ask if you're interested in going to the overseas Saint Islands. Once you're there, with the help of the superior cultivation environment and my help, your strength will definitely improve rapidly." Duan Lingtian's tone was filled with temptation. "At the very least, you'll be able to break through to the martial monarch stage. It's not impossible for you to break through to the Emperor Wu stage." Martial monarch stage. Sima Changfeng's breathing quickened when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. "Can I? Why not? Don't forget you're Duan Lingtian's teacher." Duan Lingtian said with a confident smile. If it was another person he would not be so sure. However, Sima Changfeng had a high innate talent and comprehension ability. With his help, it was not difficult for him to break through to the martial monarch stage. Emperor Wu's realm was not impossible. Lacking in talent? It's okay. In the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu, there was a record of the location of the 10,000-year stalactite. Once he went there and collected the 10,000-year stalactite milk, Sima Changfeng would be reborn and possess the ultimate innate talent of a martial artist on Cloud Continent. Poor comprehension? It didn't matter. Intent realm fragments, Upanishad fragments, intent realm fragments. Good. I'll go with you. Sima Changfeng's face was covered in smiles as he said with slight excitement. "I, Sima Changfeng, have persisted in the martial Tao all my life. Until now, I haven't married and have lived my entire life alone. If my cultivation is able to break through to the martial monarch stage, then I wouldn't have lived my life in vain. Sima Changfeng had no attachments, and he agreed to leave with Duan Lingtian with a few words. Whereas the others more or less had attachments. This also caused Duan Lingtian to come with 3 people and leave with 4 people, so there was only 1 extra person. This extra person was precisely Sima Changfeng. As for the people that were unwilling to leave, Duan Lingtian respected their choice. He would return to see them when he was free in the future. At that time, if they wanted to leave, he would bring them along. After leaving the Crimson Sky Kingdom, Duan Lingtian's group arrived at the sky above a remote mountain forest in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. After a short while, Ke, Li Fei and Sima Changfeng descended from the sky under Duan Lingtian's lead. When the 3 of them landed on the ground and focused their eyes, they were completely stunned. All of this was because they were attracted by the word, sword, on the mountain wall in front of them. It was as though their souls were captivated by the word, sword. The gigantic word was carved by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang in one smooth motion. This word, sword, contained Feng Qingyang's comprehension of the sword Dao. It was precisely because of this word that Duan Lingtian was able to successfully comprehend the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity in an extremely short amount of time. The 9th level Emperor stage profundity was also a peak profundity. Lingtian boy? Suddenly, a familiar voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. Uncle Feng. Duan Lingtian looked at the red-robed middle-aged man who was cultivating cross-legged with his eyes closed and greeted him with a light smile. The red-robed middle-aged man was none other than Feng Wudao. He was also Feng Tianwu's father. Feng Wudao stood up and immediately went to Duan Lingtian's side. He looked at Ke, Li Fei and Sima Changfeng with a puzzled expression on his face. Uncle Feng, they're my fiancés. I've mentioned them to you before. As for him, he's my teacher in my hometown. Duan Lingtian introduced him with a smile on his face. Yes. Feng Wudao nodded. Then he seriously sized up Ke and Li Fei. When he saw the 2 women's peerless appearances, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Both of them were not inferior to his daughter, Feng Tianwu, in terms of appearance. Kid Lingtian, where's Tianwu? She didn't return with you? Feng Wudao asked. When he heard Feng Wudao mention Tianwu, a guilty expression appeared on Duan Lingtian's face. Uncle Feng, I'm sorry. I didn't take good care of Tianwu. What's wrong with Tianwu? When he saw Duan Lingtian's guilty expression and apologizing to him, Feng Wudao had a bad premonition in his heart, and his face went grim. At the same time, the red robe on his body couldn't help but flutter as his origin energy shot into the sky and transformed into sword-shaped flames that emitted waves of fierce aura as if it could break through everything. Don't worry, Uncle Feng, Tianwu is fine. Duan Lingtian hurriedly replied, as he was able to discern that Feng Wudao had misunderstood. Feng Wudao's expression eased up when he heard Duan Lingtian, and the sword-shaped flames on his body were restrained once more. Then what you meant earlier was, Uncle Feng, I said I didn't take good care of Tianwu because, Duan Lingtian interrupted Feng Wudao and told him everything that happened afterward. Apart from concealing the fact that the Devil Seal Tablet was a famous Super Saint weapon on the 10 Great Saint Weapons ranking in the Dao Martial Saint Land, he didn't conceal anything else and told him everything without holding back. Feng Wudao instantly learned about Feng Tianwu's experience and that Feng Tianwu had been taken in by a force in the Dao Martial Saint Land. During this time, Duan Lingtian also explained the Dao Martial Saint Land to Feng Wudao, causing Feng Wudao to be shocked as well. He felt like a frog at the bottom of a well. After learning that Feng Tianwu was safe and sound, Feng Wudao heaved a sigh of relief. Uncle Feng, I'll go to the Dao Martial Saint Land after I've settled the matters on Cloud Continent. At that time I'll look for Tianwu as well. Duan Lingtian told Feng Wudao, Uncle Feng, you can rest assured. I'll definitely find Tianwu. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he vowed solemnly. Don't worry. So long as Tianwu is fine, she'll come back sooner or later. Feng Wudao said. Duan Lingtian nodded. Uncle Feng, where's Erhu? Duan Lingtian glanced at the surroundings and didn't notice a 6th person, so he couldn't help but look at Feng Wudao and ask. Erhu was precisely that child from Bear Village. He was also the only person in Bear Village that knew the secret of this place. That kid Erhu is wandering outside whenever he has nothing to do. Presently, not only in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, but even in the Darkstone Empire, he can already be considered as a top figure. Chapter 1349. The comprehension of the sword Dao contained within the word sword attracted Ke Li Fei and Sima Chang Feng, causing them to be intoxicated and completely immersed in it. In the sky above the canyon, an inconspicuous pagoda stood on a lush green tree. This pagoda was Duan Lingtian's Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Duan Lingtian, who was cultivating on the first level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, woke up. He had been meditating to comprehend the fused profundity during this period of time. During this period he tried to look at the word sword in the canyon. However, nothing happened like before. The word sword no longer sent any obscure information into his mind. Due to this reason he could not store the sword Dao comprehension from the word sword anymore. Could it be because I've comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity? That's not right. According to Sword Saint Feng Qingyang's message, if someone can completely comprehend the sword Dao comprehension contained in the word sword, they'll be able to do whatever they want in the Dao martial saint land. After persisting for a few days, Duan Lingtian still could not figure out the reason. In the end, he could only give up and focus on comprehending the fused profundity. In just 4 months, Duan Lingtian had made 2 breakthroughs in his fused profundity. The first time, it broke through from the 8th level Monarch stage fused profundity to the 9th level Monarch stage fused profundity. The 9th level Monarch stage fused profundity was comparable to an ordinary 9th level Emperor stage profundity. Once it was unleashed, its strength was comparable to the strength of 10 ancient black dragons. The second time, the 9th level Monarch stage fused profundity broke through to the 1st level Emperor stage fused profundity. Its strength was twice as strong as before. It was comparable to the strength of 20 ancient black dragons. The 1st level Emperor stage fused profundity that I've comprehended is 10 times stronger than an ordinary 1st level Emperor stage profundity. When I comprehend the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity, it should be 10 times stronger than an ordinary 9th level Emperor stage profundity as well. An ordinary 9th level Emperor stage profundity was equivalent to the strength of 10 ancient black dragons. Duan Lingtian's 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity was just like that. On the other hand, once Duan Lingtian comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity, the energy it contained was equivalent to the strength of 100 ancient black dragons. The strength of 100 azure dragons. What did that mean? Even if a powerhouse at the peak of Emperor Wu stage wields a royal-grade spirit weapon and unleashes his full strength, it's already considered shocking if his strength is equivalent to the strength of 60 to 70 ancient black dragons. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian's heart suddenly trembled. As for me, once I've comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity, I'll be able to kill anyone at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage with ease. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian's breathing quickened. Using just 1 profundity to kill a powerhouse at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage who unleashed his full strength without holding back. Even Duan Lingtian felt his scalp tingle just thinking about that scene. However, I've just comprehended the 1st level Emperor stage fused profundity. I'm still far from comprehending the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity. Duan Lingtian quickly calmed down. However, he did not calm down for too long because he thought of something else. If I integrate the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity into my body and open up Saint veins, the effect will definitely be better. I wonder how many Saint veins I'll be able to open up when I break through to the mortal shedding stage. I'm really looking forward to it. Duan Lingtian still remembered what Xuan'ai had told him before. According to Xuan'ai, the martial and Dao cultivators from the mortal continent had a much stronger foundation than the natives of the Dao martial saint land. Their cultivation base could be said to have been accumulated over time. Once they broke through to the mortal shedding stage, it would be unstoppable. For months? After asking Hualao and learning that he had cultivated for 4 months, Duan Lingtian could not help but jolt awake. It's been so long? I wonder if Kerr and Little Fei have woken up. 4 months in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is 2 months outside. Hualao, who was sitting cross-legged nearby, reminded Duan Lingtian when he saw he was so anxious that he stood up. I almost forgot. Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly. Only now did he remember that the time in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was different from the time outside. 2 days in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was 1 day outside. Duan Lingtian thought about the 2 girls and left the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda with just a thought. Duan Lingtian shook his head when he realized Ke, Li Fei, and Sima still had not woken up. I'm afraid we'll have to wait a little longer with their current condition. After looking down at the canyon for a while, he noticed Duan Lingtian was cultivating with his eyes closed. Duan Lingtian did not disturb him and returned to the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Hualao, wake me up in half a year. Duan Lingtian greeted Hualao before he sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. Through his observation earlier, Duan Lingtian was able to discern that the two little girls still needed a period of time before they would wake up. Moreover, the period of time that they would wake up after a period of time was only the first time they woke up. He had already told them about it. After they woke up for the first time, they would familiarize themselves with the benefits that the word, sword, brought them. After that, they could begin to accumulate the sword Tao contained in the word, sword, in their minds. They would spend time to slowly comprehend it in the future. Just like him earlier. When their minds were filled with the sword Tao from the word, sword, he would bring them away. It was the same for Sima as well. He had already informed them beforehand. Therefore, according to Duan Lingtian's estimation, the three of them would need at least a few months to complete the first two steps. Duan Lingtian immersed himself in his cultivation and fully immersed himself in comprehending the fused profundity. The Emperor's stage nature profundity fragments in his hand were being consumed rapidly. Every 10 days to half a month, there would be an Emperor stage profundity fragment that would shatter. If someone were to see this, they would definitely feel heartache and even scold Duan Lingtian for being a wastrel. However, all of this was nothing to Duan Lingtian. Previously, on Half Moon Island, the former island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, had used his devil technique to absorb the vital essence of 85 powerhouses in their prime and turn them into dried corpses. Among the 85 powerhouses in their prime, almost half of them were Emperor stage powerhouses who had nurtured Emperor stage profundity fragments. After they died, the profundity fragments in their bodies were all in Duan Lingtian's hands. Therefore, Duan Lingtian could still bear this kind of consumption. If it was someone else, they would have a headache. The path of comprehending the fused profundity was like a bottomless pit. Initially, one Emperor stage nature profundity fragment would shatter every half a month. Later on, it would shatter every 10 days. Later on, it would shatter every 7 to 8 days. Then it would shatter every 5 to 6 days. When one Emperor stage nature profundity fragment shattered every 3 days, Hualao woke Duan Lingtian up. It's been half a year already? Duan Lingtian regained his senses and had a surprised expression on his face. In his mind, it felt as though only a few days had passed. It's been 3 months outside. Hualao reminded him. It's been 3 months. It should be about time. Duan Lingtian smiled and left the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda again. This time, he shrunk the pagoda and stuffed it into his ears before he descended from the sky. He was in a good mood. After half a year of comprehension, his fused profundity had improved by another 2 steps. He had successfully comprehended the 3rd level Emperor stage fused profundity. They're about to wake up. Duan Lingtian glanced at Ke, Li Fei and Sima. As someone who had experienced this before, he could easily tell that their minds were about to be filled with sword Tao comprehension from the word, sword. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian stepped into the air. A wave of air swept out soundlessly as he shot up into the sky like a rocket. He did not know how high he had reached when a 5-colored flame suddenly burst out of Duan Lingtian's body. It emitted a majestic and vast aura. It was the fused profundity. As the 5-colored flame rose, the heaven and earth energy stirred above Duan Lingtian's head and made a series of muffled sounds. Soon after, the heaven and earth phenomenon formed. There was a total of 40 silhouettes of ancient black dragons spiraling down. They were lifelike and had a majestic aura. With the strength I can display now, even without using the Saint-grade martial tactic, I can easily defeat a powerhouse at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage who hasn't cultivated the Saint-grade martial tactic. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed as he thought to himself, if I use the Saint-grade martial tactic, I'm almost invincible among those below the mortal shedding stage. Duan Lingtian was very confident about this. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was being conservative. He was only almost invincible. In his opinion, unless there was a powerhouse at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage who had cultivated the human rank prominent Saint-grade martial tactic technique to an extremely high level, it was impossible for anyone to be a match for him. It was almost impossible for a powerhouse at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage to meet this condition. What a magical world. No, I should say it's a magical planet. Only the heaven and earth energy on the cloud continent and the surrounding seas can form the heaven and earth phenomenon. No matter how powerful one is, the heaven and earth energy won't form the heaven and earth phenomenon when they leave the cloud continent's surrounding areas and arrive at the sea. Duan Lingtian exclaimed. Disregarding everything else, just this point alone made him feel that it was very magical. It was just as Duan Lingtian had expected. A few days later, Ke, Little Fei, and Sima Changfeng woke up one after another. their abilities had more or less been elevated. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was also preparing to bring them back to the inner land of the Cloud Continent to the Lingtian sect's new estate. The new estate. Duan Lingtian had only heard about it from Xuanai. He had not been there before. "Uncle Feng, you should leave with us too." Duan Lingtian called out to Feng Wudao, "I'm going to move the Lingtian sect to the overseas Saint Island, Half Moon Island. The cultivation environment there is better." Feng Wudao had heard about Duan Lingtian's achievements in the inner land of the Cloud Continent. He also knew that the cultivation environment on Half Moon Island was great. Therefore he agreed to leave with Duan Lingtian. "However, if I leave, who's going to guard this canyon? Second Tiger isn't here either." Chapter 1350. "Uncle Feng, you don't have to worry about that." Duan Lingtian smiled. Under Feng Wudao's puzzled gaze, Duan Lingtian, who was hovering in the air above the canyon, set up an inscription formation that covered the entire canyon. Currently, Duan Lingtian was already at the 9th level Emperor Wu stage. His spiritual energy had also reached the 9th level Emperor Wu stage. An inscription formation that was set up with such spiritual energy was, naturally, extremely powerful. Most importantly, Duan Lingtian placed 10 saint stones as the energy source of the inscription formation. Unless it's someone who's at the 7th level Emperor Wu stage or above, it's impossible for anyone else to break this inscription formation. Duan Lingtian thought to himself after he finished setting up the inscription formation. What a joke. This was an inscription formation that he had set up with 10 saint stones. What was a saint stone? It was a good item that could help Emperor Wu powerhouses to raise their cultivation base rapidly. It was similar to origin stones, but it was not something that origin stones could compare to. The reason Duan Lingtian was so generous was not because he was the island master of Half Moon Island and would be able to obtain some saint stones from the supreme grade origin stone mine on Half Moon Island every once in a while. It was because Xuanai had given him many saint stones. According to Xuanai, saint stones were very common in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Although they were common, they were not that easy to obtain. For example, it was extremely difficult for some mortal stage martial and Dao cultivators who did not have any background to obtain a saint stone. Xuanai, on the other hand, had a powerful force behind her, so it was only natural that she had many saint stones in her hands. The saint stones that Xuanai had given him amounted to more than 1,000 pieces. The quality was much better than what he originally had. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian did not even bat an eyelid when he took out 10 saint stones to set up the inscription formation. According to the words of the earth in his past life, he was being willful because he was rich. After setting up the inscription formation, Duan Lingtian and the others left the canyon. The group of 4 became a group of 5. After allowing the 4 of them to cultivate by themselves, Duan Lingtian led them forward, and they quickly left the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom and entered the Darkstone Empire. They continued to head north and entered the Darkhan Dynasty. After arriving at the Darkhan Dynasty, Duan Lingtian made a trip to the Imperial City. Originally, he wanted to ask Zhang Shouyong if he was interested in leaving with him. However, when he arrived at the Zhang clan in the Imperial City, he was told that Zhang Shouyong and his wife had already left the Imperial City last year. I wonder where big brother Zhang went. Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart. Towards Zhang Shouyong he had always been grateful, not for anything else but for saving his life back then. Even now he didn't dare to forget that kindness. I can only wait until the next time I come back and see if I can see big brother Zhang. Right now I'm going to the Blade Sect. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart and had a plan. The Blade Sect was a third-rate force in the southern area of the northern desert. It was also the sect that Duan Lingtian's childhood friend, Su Li, had joined. He was going to the Blade Sect for Su Li. However, when he arrived at the Blade Sect, he found out that Su Li had followed Jian Shirsan and left the Blade Sect as soon as he left. Why didn't they come looking for me? When he recalled the unhappiness in the Blade Sect and the promise he made to Su Li and his disciple before he left, Duan Lingtian could not help but smile wryly. Su Li and Jian Shirsan were the same as Zhang Shouyong. He did not know where they went. For this reason, Duan Lingtian could only bring the 4 of them back to the inner land of the Cloud Continent. I've spent 10 months in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Outside it's been 5 months. Including the other time, it's been 6 months since I returned to the Cloud Continent. After returning to the inner land, Duan Lingtian suddenly had a thought. 6 months. I wonder how they found the materials I asked for. The materials he asked for were the materials needed to repair the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. After mobilizing more than half of the humans and demon beasts on the Cloud Continent to search for the materials, Duan Lingtian really wanted to know how the results were after 6 months. With Duan Lingtian's speed, he soon arrived at the Lingtian sect's new residence even though he was only bringing 6 people with him. Originally he brought 4 people with him. However, when he passed by the Lingtian sect's original residence, he brought Xiong Quan and the Gold Thug along. Xiong Quan and the Gold Thug were unwilling to leave in the past because they wanted to wait for Duan Lingtian to return. Now that Duan Lingtian had returned, they were naturally willing to leave. When Duan Lingtian and the group of 7 returned to the Lingtian sect, regardless of whether it was Han Xuanai, Little Gold, Little Black, or Little White, all of them had already returned from outside. In 6 months they had already completed the task that Duan Lingtian had asked them to do. After returning to the Lingtian sect again, Duan Lingtian's heart jolted when he saw the new surroundings. After a long while he could not help but sigh. There was a rich high-grade origin stone reserve buried under the Lingtian sect's new residence. In the entire Cloud Continent, such a cultivation environment was considered pretty good. Apart from the 2 great ancient clans' residences on the Cloud Continent, there was no other place that could compare to this. Moreover, there was a supreme-grade origin stone reserve buried under the 2 great ancient clans' residences. Sect Leader. Not long after Duan Lingtian returned, Han Xuanai ordered all the 7-Star Sword sect's senior officials and disciples who were guarding the residence to meet Duan Lingtian, the real sect leader of the Lingtian sect. She was only the acting sect leader. Now that Duan Lingtian had returned, she returned the Lingtian sect to Duan Lingtian. Zhang San, Luo Ping, and all of you long time no see. A smile appeared on Duan Lingtian's face as he looked at the few familiar faces in front of him. Other than Zhang San and Luo Ping, the 2 former vice-sect leaders, there were also familiar faces like Qin Xiao Shuai, Lu Bai, the Nangong twins, and the others. Sect Leader. Zhang San and Luo Ping were slightly excited when they saw Duan Lingtian again. Qin Xiao Shuai, Lu Bai, and the others were no exception, and all of them were extremely excited. Although they had long since found out that Duan Lingtian was safe and sound from Nangong brothers, when they really saw Duan Lingtian safe and sound, they still could not help but feel slightly excited in their hearts. Duan Lingtian was not surprised that only a few familiar faces remained, because Xuanai had long since mentioned this matter to him. At that time, because the Han clan's Han Jing had arrived at the Lingtian sect, facing Han Jing's formidable strength, the Lingtian sect was on the verge of annihilation. At that time, besides these few familiar faces, everyone else had betrayed him. Yearly C. Duan Lingtian looked at the unfamiliar face next to Zhang San. It was not difficult for him to guess his identity. Li Si was the only person who had just joined the Lingtian sect not long ago when the Lingtian sect was on the verge of annihilation but did not betray the sect. He was also Zhang San's friend. Sect Leader. When Li Si saw Duan Lingtian taking the initiative to greet him, a smile bloomed on his face. He felt that his choice back then was so wise. Sometimes, being unafraid of death was not necessarily a bad thing. After he gave the order and dismissed all the senior officials and disciples of the Lingtian sect, Duan Lingtian looked at Han Xuanai and asked, "Xuanai, how many of the materials that I wanted have been found?" "A lot," Han Xuanai said with a smile. At the same time, she handed a spatial ring to Duan Lingtian. "The materials that were handed over are all in here. Now, no matter if it's humans or demons, they've practically turned the inner land of the Cloud Continent upside down just to help Brother Duan Lingtian look for the materials. There will be a lot of materials that will be delivered to your door later." Han Xuanai finished in one breath. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard this. Just as Duan Lingtian had thought earlier, the demon beasts on the Cloud Continent who handed over the most materials and were the most diligent were the demon beasts on the Cloud Continent. In this aspect they had a natural advantage. Duan Lingtian was very satisfied with this. After sending the materials in his hand into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda and into Hua Lao's hands, Duan Lingtian left the Lingtian sect and went to see Demon Emperor Man Wu. "This is what you deserve." Duan Lingtian gave a saint stone to Demon Emperor Man Wu. "As long as you're not a short-sighted person, and as long as the demon beasts collect more materials, I'll still give you the reward you deserve." Before Duan Lingtian left, he said to Demon Emperor Man Wu meaningfully. Demon Emperor Man Wu's eyes lit up when he heard this. He held the saint stone tightly in his hand and began to issue orders to his direct disciples. They continued to mobilize the demon beasts on the inner land of the Cloud Continent to search for the various materials that Duan Lingtian needed. For this he even made a promise. As long as the demon beasts handed over a lot of materials, regardless of their cultivation base, they would have a chance to become his disciple. Although they would only become the disciple with the lowest status under Demon Emperor Man Wu's command, countless demon beasts would still go crazy over it. Gradually, apart from the inner land, the demon beasts on the outer land also began to search for the materials that Duan Lingtian needed. Apart from the demon beasts who found a lot of materials, the human martial artists also found a lot of materials. For the next period of time, Duan Lingtian stayed in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and seriously comprehended the fused profundity. His fused profundity was improving every second. Kerr and Li Fei sat cross-legged on both sides of him, causing the atmosphere to become more peaceful. A few days ago, in order to improve the two girls' strength as soon as possible, he revealed the wonders of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to them. At the same time, he brought them into the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The two girls were shocked by the wonders of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda for a long time. After a long time, they gradually calmed down. To them, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was just too shocking. They could not compare to Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian had heard various versions of ancient myths and legends in his past life. He had long known about the existence of the celestial supreme treasure, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Therefore, when he first heard about the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda's ability, he quickly calmed down. When Kerr and Little Feier's cultivation base has improved a little more, and when the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is repaired, I'll bring them to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian had made up his mind. This was also the reason he brought the two girls into the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to cultivate. Chapter 1351. Apart from comprehending the fused profundity in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and transporting materials into the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, in the remaining time, Duan Lingtian began to move the Lingtian sect. The Lingtian sect was now the #1 sect on the Cloud Continent. Due to Han Xuan'ai, the Lingtian sect had a transcendent status on the Cloud Continent. Even the two great ancient clans did not dare to offend them. Therefore, the migration of the Lingtian sect went smoothly. Apart from Qing Shen's Emperor Wu, Demon Emperor Man Wu, and a group of Emperor Wu and Demon Emperors who came to help, the two great ancient clans also sent powerhouses to help. At this moment, Qing Shen's Emperor Wu, Demon Emperor Man Wu, and the rest of the famous Emperor Wu and Demon Emperors on the Cloud Continent finally realized that there were many existences that were more powerful than them in the two great ancient clans. These existences were so powerful that they could defeat or even kill them with just one blow. There were many people in the Lingtian sect. Even with the help of a group of Emperor Wu and Demon Emperors, they still had to make 2 trips to bring everyone to Half Moon Island. It's fortunate that there are so many people to help. Otherwise, with just me, Xuan'ai, Little Gold, Little White, and Little Black, I don't know how long it would take to move the people from the Lingtian sect to Half Moon Island. After most of the people from the Lingtian sect had been moved and were taken over by the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian stood in the sky above the Lingtian Peak and muttered to himself. The Lingtian Peak beneath his feet was the new residence of the Lingtian sect on the Cloud Continent. However, it had become an old residence now. Apart from Duan Lingtian and a few people around him, only some of the elders from the Lingtian sect had not left the Lingtian Peak. These elders from the Lingtian sect were in charge of receiving the materials sent from all over the Cloud Continent to repair the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. As time went by, the materials from all over the Cloud Continent decreased. In the end, there was nothing left. Even if a large number of human martial artists and demon beasts on Cloud Continent dug 3 feet into the ground to search, they still could not find the materials needed to repair the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Huolao, how much more do you need? Without the materials, Duan Lingtian also felt a headache. He couldn't help but ask Huolao. The second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is already 50% repaired. If I have more materials, I'll be able to repair it completely. Huolao said, once it's fully repaired, you'll be able to ascend to the second level and obtain the Jasper Celestial Sword. You'll also be able to cultivate on it. This Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is really a bottomless pit. Even with so many materials, only half of the second level has been repaired. This was only the second level. There were still 5 more levels to go. Just thinking about it gives me a headache. Duan Lingtian smiled bitterly. Currently, the materials needed to repair the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda could no longer be found on Cloud Continent. Can't be helped. The materials you sent in are the lowest grade of the materials I told you about. Naturally, I'll need a lot of these materials. Huolao said, if it's the highest grade materials I told you about, you'll only need one of each to completely repair the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Huolao, the materials you mentioned? Not only me but even Xuanai has never heard of them. Where do you want me to find them for you? Duan Lingtian smiled bitterly. Han Xuanai was the young miss of a powerful force in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Her knowledge was not something he could compare to. However, even then she had never heard of the materials Huolao mentioned. If even Xuanai did not know about them, it was even more impossible for him to know about them. There aren't any of those materials on this planet? Huolao frowned. That shouldn't be the case. The materials I mentioned were based on the standards of planet Yanhuang in the past. Even the highest grade materials can be collected in the past on planet Yanhuang as long as one is willing. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian could not help but smile wryly. Naturally he knew. The planet Yanhuang of the past that Elder Hua mentioned was the Earth that only existed in ancient myths and legends a long time ago. At that time humans had just been born. This planet might not have those materials. After all, it's impossible for Xuanai to know all the materials on this planet. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Then Duan Lingtian learned from Huolao. More than 80% of the materials collected on Cloud Continent to repair the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda could not be used to repair the third level because those materials were too low grade. According to Huolao, Duan Lingtian divided the materials that Huolao mentioned into 5 levels. The 5 levels were elementary, intermediate, 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 advanced, and advanced. The best materials collected on Cloud Continent were intermediate, intermediate, and elementary materials. However, most of them were elementary materials. Elementary materials were useless in repairing the third level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. At the very least, intermediate and elementary materials were needed. At this rate, I'm afraid it'll take a long time before the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is completely repaired. When Duan Lingtian thought of this, he felt powerless. After some time, Han Xuanai returned from the overseas Saint Island, Half Moon Island. At the same time, she brought back the materials that the 4 overseas Saint Islands had collected. Compared to the materials collected on Cloud Continent, the materials that Han Xuanai brought back could be said to be very little. However, since most of them were intermediate, and elementary materials, and a few intermediate materials, the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was repaired by another 30% on top of the 50% that it had already repaired. Since then, the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was successfully repaired by 80%. I've turned the Cloud Continent and the 4 overseas Saint Islands upside down, but the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is only 80% repaired. Duan Lingtian had a wry smile on his face. If you can get the dragon pearl from the little devil dragon, you'll be able to repair the remaining 20% immediately. Huolao said to Duan Lingtian. Huolao, why didn't you say so earlier? Look at him now, he's gone. Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. Naturally, he knew the little devil dragon that Huolao mentioned was Di Yong. Di Yong's true form was a 5-clawed devil dragon, the top existence among the 5-clawed divine dragons. I'm afraid he won't be willing to give you the dragon pearl if he hasn't left. Huolao said. What? Duan Lingtian asked. After Huolao's explanation, Duan Lingtian finally understood. As it turned out, every dragon only had 1 dragon pearl. A dragon's dragon pearl was equivalent to a demon beast's inner core. The only difference was the dragon pearl was innate. Once a dragon's dragon pearl was taken, it would die as well. Therefore, there was only one way to take a dragon's dragon pearl, and that was to kill it. Kill a 5-clawed devil dragon? Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. Indeed, just as Huolao said, even if Wang Ba possessed Di Yong who was reborn, he would not be able to obtain the dragon pearl. Although he could use the devil seal tablet to kill Di Yong, he could not bring himself to do it. No matter what, Di Yong had saved his life before, even though he had his own motives. Although he had ulterior motives, it was an indisputable fact that Di Yong had saved his life. Previously, he had used the devil seal tablet for the 3rd time in Lost Stone Forest. If it was not for Di Yong, he would have been killed. However, Duan Lingtian was still surprised. A 5-clawed divine dragon's dragon pearl was actually comparable to the few high-grade materials that Huolao had mentioned. If that's the case, the few high-grade materials that Huolao mentioned are treasures on the same level as a 5-clawed divine dragon's dragon pearl? Duan Lingtian's heart sank when he thought of this. Xuanai had told him about this before. Even among the dragons in the Dao Martial Saint Land, there were not many five-clawed divine dragons. There were only 9 of them. In other words, in the Dao Martial Saint Land, there were at most 9 five-clawed divine dragons dragon pearls at the same time. It seems like it'll be a long journey to repair the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. I'm afraid I'll only be able to repair the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda after I arrive at the Dao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Since he could no longer find the materials needed to repair the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda on the Cloud Continent, Duan Lingtian was ready to leave. When the 2 girls woke up from their cultivation, Duan Lingtian brought them out of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Together with Han Xuanai, he brought the remaining elders from the Lingtian sect and left the Cloud Continent for the overseas Saint Island, Half Moon Island. Before the 2 girls woke up, Duan Lingtian visited the group of Emperor Wu and Demon Emperors one by one. Apart from the powerhouses from the 2 great ancient clans, he also gave out Saint Stones one by one. Duan Lingtian was never one to owe favors. As for the 2 great ancient clans, Duan Lingtian asked Han Xuanai to thank them on his behalf. After returning to Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian gathered all the people from the Lingtian sect in Half Moon Island. At the same time, he also officially allowed the senior officials and disciples of Half Moon Island led by the 3 Vice Island Masters to join the Lingtian sect. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island who were previously intimidated by Duan Lingtian's powerful strength did not dare to have any objections. Since they did not dare to have any objections, their subordinates were even more so. From then on, the Lingtian sect settled down on Half Moon Island. Since the Lingtian sect had moved to Half Moon Island, the buildings in the central area of Half Moon Island naturally had to be changed. Under Duan Lingtian's order, all the old buildings were overturned and new buildings were erected one after another. The Lingtian sect's base on Half Moon Island was soon built. It only took half a year to complete all of this. Looking down at the majestic sect's base under his feet, Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart. If it was on Earth in my past life, such a huge project would have taken at least 8 to 10 years to complete. But in this place, it only took half a year to complete everything inside and out. Duan Lingtian's thoughts became active when the Lingtian sect's new base was completed. It's time to leave. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. Leave Half Moon Island and head to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Whether it was to return to Earth or to look for his parents, he had to go to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Chapter 1352. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to leave Half Moon Island with the 2 girls and Han Xuanai to the Dao Martial Saint Land after making all the arrangements, Duan Lingtian suddenly spoke up. Scoundrel, I want to stay. Li Fei gritted her teeth and said to Duan Lingtian hesitantly. What's wrong? You don't want to go to the Dao Martial Saint Land? Duan Lingtian asked in confusion. There are many powerhouses in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Let alone me, even if you go there, it'll be dangerous. I don't want to be a burden to you. Li Fei took a deep breath and said slowly, moreover, the Lingtian sect can't be without a leader. I want to stay and help you take care of the Lingtian sect. She did not want to be separated from her man, not even for a second. However, she still tried her best to stay rational. That was why she was able to say those ambiguous words. Young master, I want to stay as well. Before Duan Lingtian could reply to Li Fei, Ke chimed in. Just like Li Fei, she did not want to be a burden to Duan Lingtian. She did not want to be a burden to Duan Lingtian. Whether it was Ke or Li Fei, at this moment, all of them recognized the fact that if they wanted to possess strength that surpassed Duan Lingtian and help him, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Therefore they decided to stay on Half Moon Island and take care of the Lingtian sect for Duan Lingtian. This way they could share the burden with their man. Sister Fei or Sister Ke? Actually, you don't have to do this. If you're worried about being a burden to Brother Lingtian, you can come to my house. It's very safe there. The moment Ke's words left her mouth, Han Xuanai said to the 2 girls. Xuanai, we know you mean well. However, what's the difference between staying at your house and staying at Half Moon Island? Moreover, I can help take care of the Lingtian sect if I stay on Half Moon Island. Li Fei said with a smile, but in the depths of her eyes, there was a glimmer of reluctance. That's right. Moreover, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White won't be leaving for the time being, so they can accompany us. Ke nodded. Both girls said that they wanted to stay, but Duan Lingtian was naturally unwilling. Ke, Little Fei, didn't you say that you would never be separated from me again? Scoundrel, the situation is different this time. Moreover, Kerr and I are on Half Moon Island. If you want to come back, you can visit us anytime. Li Fei shook her head and said. Kerr nodded. In the end, Duan Ling Tian was truly unable to persuade the two stubborn little girls, so he could only compromise. However, before he left, he lingered with the two girls for a long time. During this process, Duan Ling Tian left a seed of love in each of their bodies at their request. After 10 months, it would blossom and bear fruit. When the children are born, I'll definitely rush back. When they parted, Duan Ling Tian promised the two girls. Scoundrel, you don't have to worry about Kerr and I when we reach the Dao Martial Saint Land. We'll take good care of ourselves. With little gold, little black and little white around, we'll be very safe. Li Fei said. Young master, Sister Fei and I will wait for your return. Kerr's autumn eyes gleamed as she said to Duan Ling Tian softly. Little gold, little black, little white. I'll leave your sister Kerr and Sister Fei to you. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath and reluctantly shifted his gaze from the two little girls to the three little fellows at the side as he spoke with a serious expression. Brother, don't worry. With me around, I'll definitely take good care of Sister Kerr and Sister Fei. The golden-clad little girl said confidently to Duan Ling Tian. That's right, brother. With little white and me around, we'll definitely not let anything happen to Sister Kerr and Sister Fei. Little Black said. I believe in all of you. Duan Ling Tian was not worried about the strength of the three little fellows. The current strength of the three little fellows was not inferior to the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, including Xiao Kuan. Under the reluctant gazes of the two little girls and three little fellows, Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai left side by side, and it didn't take long for them to disappear before their eyes. At this moment, two streaks of tears fell from Kerr and Li Fei's beautiful faces at the same time. When they were in front of Duan Ling Tian earlier, they tried their best to hold back their tears as they were afraid that he would see them. Now that Duan Ling Tian had left, they did not have to hold back anymore. Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai were flying side by side in the sky above the vast and boundless sea to the north of Half Moon Island. Along the way, Duan Ling Tian was feeling a little down in the beginning. Duan Ling Tian's mood gradually recovered after Han Xuanai tried to talk to him. However, there was still an indescribable excitement in his heart. It was an inexplicable excitement. In 10 months, my two children will be born. Duan Ling Tian was excited because of this. He would have children very soon. He would be a father very soon. No matter where I am, I'll definitely rush back in 10 months. I'll accompany Kerr and little Fei, to witness the birth of two little lives. Duan Ling Tian made up his mind after taking a deep breath. Xuanai, isn't your father worried that you're leaving the Dao Martial Saint Land alone? Duan Ling Tian asked as he looked at Han Xuanai who was standing next to him. Duan Ling Tian still remembered. When Han Xuanai was on Cloud Continent, she always had Qing Nu by her side. However, this time she came back alone with the three little fellows. Brother Ling Tian, actually, there's someone following me when I leave the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, I asked them to stay in the sea near the south of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Han Xuanai said, let alone Saint Stage powerhouses, even Saint Rudiment Stage and Mortal Shedding Stage powerhouses are rare when we leave the Dao Martial Saint Land. Therefore we don't have to worry about any danger. Moreover, even if we really encounter danger, I'm not afraid of anything unless it's a Saint Stage powerhouse. The Dao Talisman can't kill them, but it can severely injure and imprison them. When Han Xuanai reached the end of her sentence, her face was filled with confidence. Dao Talisman. Duan Ling Tian finally understood. I see. Only then did he remember that Han Xuanai still had Dao Talismans. Dao Talismans could only be drawn by Dao cultivators above the Saint Rudiment Stage. Xuanai, with our current speed, how long will it take to reach the Dao Martial Saint Land? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. About half a month. Han Xuanai replied. Half a month? That long? When Duan Ling Tian heard this, he could not help but feel shocked. In fact, with his current speed, it would only take him a few days to return to Cloud Continent from Half Moon Island. However, it would take him half a month to reach the Dao Martial Saint Land? Brother Ling Tian, when you parted ways with Sister Kerr and Sister Fei, you said you'd come back when the children are born? Don't tell me they're pregnant? Han Xuanai asked curiously as she blinked her mischievous eyes. That's right. They'll be born in 10 months. Duan Ling Tian nodded as a blissful smile appeared on his face. 10 months. When Han Xuanai heard Duan Ling Tian's words, she smiled and said, Brother Ling Tian, who told you that your children will be born in 10 months? Isn't it always 10 months? It's common sense to be pregnant for 10 months. Duan Ling Tian said matter-of-factly. Xuanai, you've never given birth before so you don't understand. I've never given birth before so I don't understand? Brother Ling Tian, do you mean? You've given birth before so you understand? Han Xuanai's mischievous eyes turned as she sized Duan Ling Tian up from head to toe as she teased. You little girl. Even if I've never eaten pork, I've seen pigs run before. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. Big brother Ling Tian, based on what you said about big sister Ke and big sister Fei, being pregnant for 10 months, it really shows that you've never seen a pig run before. When Han Xuanai heard Duan Ling Tian's words, the smile on her face widened as she said matter-of-factly. Xuanai, what are you trying to say? Duan Ling Tian frowned as he asked in bewilderment, and the smile on his face vanished. Brother Ling Tian, the 10 months of pregnancy you spoke of is only for the union of people below the congenital stage. If a man and a woman are both existences at the congenital stage or above, then their child would take at least a year to be born. Han Xuanai explained, the child of a man and woman that have just broken through to the congenital stage, or in other words, a man and woman with a cultivation at the void-prying stage, would be born in a year. In the future, the higher the cultivation of a man and woman, the later the child they conceive would be born. But, the later the child is born, the more outstanding it is. Supposedly, the reason they're born later is because they have to absorb the congenital origin energy within their mother's body. The later the child is born, the higher its natural talent. Han Xuanai continued. With brother Ling Tian's cultivation, sister Ke's and sister Fei Er's cultivation, it's impossible for your child to be born without 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years? Duan Ling Tian was dumbstruck when he heard Han Xuanai's words. He'd only heard of 10 months of pregnancy, but never had he imagined that there would be 3 to 5 years of pregnancy. Was that still a human? Xuanai, how do you know all this? Duan Ling Tian looked at Han Xuanai with a strange gaze as he asked. He was truly unable to wrap his head around how this little girl even knew all this. Brother Ling Tian, didn't you say earlier? Even if you haven't eaten pork, you've still seen pigs run. Han Xuanai returned Duan Ling Tian's words to him, causing Duan Ling Tian to be unable to help but laugh bitterly. In the end he couldn't help but confirm. Xuanai, are you sure what you said is true? Bang, 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 bang. Just as Han Xuanai was about to reply to Duan Ling Tian again, a loud sound rang out and interrupted her. It was the calm surface of the sea beneath her and Duan Ling Tian's feet that had exploded without any warning, causing seawater to splash up along with it. This scene was as though a huge rock had been thrown into the surface of the sea. Before Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai could react, the turbulent surface of the sea suddenly twisted and formed an extremely powerful suction force. The suction force shot up into the sky and enveloped Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai in the blink of an eye. For a moment, Duan Ling Tian only felt an unparalleled force enveloping his body and dragging him into the sea. Chapter 1353. Brother Ling Tian. Han Xuanai, who barely managed to stop herself from falling, was horrified when she saw Duan Ling Tian being swallowed by the whirlpool on the surface of the sea. Without any hesitation, she swooped down and sent herself into the turbulent whirlpool. At the same time, a strange bead appeared in her hand out of thin air. She crushed the bead as soon as it was in her hand. A 7-colored beam shot up into the sky. In just a blink of an eye, the 7-colored beam shot up into the sky and only disappeared after a long time. Boom. Han Xuanai charged into the whirlpool, but she was not affected by the whirlpool's suction. Her body was covered with a layer of transparent light shield that blocked the seawater around her. Although she was in the whirlpool, she could still control her body. In the whirlpool, the turbulent and twisting seawater slammed against the transparent light shield, causing the light shield to shake. However, Han Xuanai did not have the mood to care about this. Her face was grave as she moved faster and faster, following the whirlpool to the bottom of the sea. Soon after, she arrived at the bottom of the sea. At the same time, she also saw the source of the whirlpool. A gigantic creature was lying on the bottom of the sea with its mouth wide open. The energy in its mouth was twisting, causing the seawater to form a whirlpool. Some of the fish in the deep sea could not escape from the whirlpool and were swallowed by it. Sea-devouring beast. Why is there a sea-devouring beast here? Han Xuanai's expression changed as she exclaimed. It was obvious she recognized the gigantic creature in front of her. In the Dao Martial Saint Land there were 2 types of beast. One was Saint Beast. The other was Wild Beast. When Saint Beasts broke through to the innate stage they would have basic intelligence. They could even speak human language and transform into human form. After they transformed into human form, they were no different from humans. They could also cultivate saint-grade martial tactics and use saint weapons. They were also divided into martial cultivators and Dao cultivators. Naturally, as saint beasts, their bodies were much stronger than ordinary humans. Some saint beast strength was limited when they were in human form. However, once they transformed into their true form, they could unleash their full strength. Wild beasts were different from saint beasts. If saint beasts were favored by the heavens, then savage beasts were abandoned by the heavens. Unlike saint beasts, even if they had broken through to the mortal shedding stage, saint rudiment stage, or even the saint stage, wild beasts would not possess human intelligence, let alone breaking through to the innate stage. They could not speak the human language, nor could they transform into humans. They were similar to the uncivilized wild beasts and ferocious beasts of the mortal continent. They survived completely on instinct. They followed the law of nature, where the strong preyed on the weak and only the fittest survived. However, even though they did not possess sentience and were unable to morph into human form like the saint beasts, cultivate human cultivation techniques, martial arts, and use saint artifacts, their cultivation speed was in no way inferior to the saint beasts. Not only that, but their bodies were also far stronger than the saint beast. In a battle between a savage beast and a saint beast of the same cultivation realm, even if the saint beast were to transform into a human and utilize a saint artifact or a saint martial technique, it might not necessarily be a match for the savage beast. The body of a savage beast was too strong. Even the weakest one was comparable to the three-clawed divine dragon among dragons. The stronger ones were even comparable to the four-clawed divine dragon among dragons. To a savage beast, its body was its greatest advantage. Its battle instincts that were trained from hundreds, thousands and tens of thousands of battles were its most powerful technique. It was in no way inferior to the saint-grade martial tactic. At this moment, the savage beast that appeared in front of Han Xuanai was one of them. A sea-devouring beast. Han Xuanai could tell it was a sea-devouring beast at the early mortal shedding stage. You swallowed Brother Ling Tian? Han Xuanai's face turned grave as she looked at the gigantic creature in front of her. It was as though it was covered with a layer of frost. The mischievous look in her eyes was no longer there. It was replaced by a cold killing intent. Young Mississippi, just when Han Xuanai was about to make her move, two respectful voices sounded in unison. At the same time, two tall figures appeared behind Han Xuanai and bowed respectfully. They were two tall middle-aged men. They stood there like two iron towers. Their appearances were ordinary, and they looked more like two ordinary people who couldn't be more ordinary. However, based on the fact that the turbulent seawater around them did not affect the transparent light shield on their bodies, their strength was far above Han Xuanai's. Kill it. Don't hurt Brother Ling Tian who was swallowed by it. Han Xuanai ordered coldly. The two middle-aged men were summoned by Han Xuanai's signal beam earlier. They were sent by her father to protect her. However, when she left the Dao Martial Saint Land, both of them were abandoned by her in the sea south of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Yes. The moment Han Xuanai's words left her mouth, one of the middle-aged men nodded solemnly and took a step forward at the same time. The moment he took a step forward, a ray of light shot out from under his feet and pierced through the sea-engulfing beast's head in just a blink of an eye, causing the sea-engulfing beast to fall with a loud bang. The moment the sea-engulfing beast died, the suction force from its bloody mouth disappeared as well. Just as its bloody mouth was about to close, the other middle-aged man disappeared into thin air. Even the seawater did not stir at all. It was extremely strange. When he appeared again, he was already in the sea-engulfing beast's bloody mouth. He did not seem to have made any movements, but he easily opened the sea-engulfing beast's bloody mouth. As he opened and closed his hands, the sea-engulfing beast's body was forcefully torn apart from its bloody mouth. However, the bloody scene did not happen. This was because the sea-engulfing beast's body and flesh had been frozen into ice sculptures. They fell like pieces of rocks. At the same time, the fish that were swallowed by the sea-engulfing beast and had yet to be digested managed to escape and swam away. Thank you for saving my life, sir. There was an old man in the sea-engulfing beast's stomach. After the old man came out, he bowed respectfully and thanked the middle-aged man. He was a human transformed from a demon. He happened to be passing by and was unlucky enough to encounter the sea-engulfing beast and was swallowed by it. Initially he thought he was going to die. He did not expect someone to save him. Where's Brother Ling Tian? At this moment Han Xuanai had also arrived in front of the old man. She looked around carefully but did not see any trace of Duan Ling Tian. Horror dawned on her. "Young miss, there's a mark left behind by a demon cultivator on this sea-engulfing beast's body. It must have been controlled by a demon cultivator to come here. Otherwise, by right, there shouldn't be a sea-engulfing beast here." At this moment, the middle-aged man who killed the sea-engulfing beast and froze its flesh and blood said to Han Xuanai respectfully after glancing at the sea-engulfing beast's body, "Demon cultivator?" Han Xuanai's expression changed drastically when she heard this. She realized this might not be a coincidence. "Did you see a person when you were swallowed by the sea-engulfing beast?" "A young man in purple." Han Xuanai took a deep breath and looked at the old man as she asked anxiously, "I saw him." The old man nodded. "The moment I was swallowed, I saw a young man who had fainted following behind me. He was almost swallowed as well. At that critical moment, I only saw a black shadow pass by, and the young man was gone." A demon cultivator controlled this sea-engulfing beast and took Brother Ling Tian away? Han Xuanai's thoughts soon became clear. At the same time, she looked at the two middle-aged men next to her and ordered, "No matter what, we must find Brother Ling Tian." "Yes." When the two middle-aged men heard this, they immediately split into two directions and began to search in the vast deep sea. "Who's the person who took such great pains to take Brother Ling Tian away? Since he can control the sea-engulfing beast at the early stage of the mortal shedding stage, it means he's at least a demon cultivator at the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage." Han Xuanai's heart jolted as she thought, with his ability, it won't be difficult for him to take Brother Ling Tian away on the surface of the sea. There's only one possibility for him to take such great pains. "He's afraid of me." Han Xuanai gasped when she thought of this. If that's the case, that demon cultivator knows he won't be able to take Brother Ling Tian away with me around. That's why he controlled the sea-engulfing beast to stall for time. Han Xuanai's thoughts became clearer. Diyong. It must be Diyong. After her thoughts became clear, Han Xuanai immediately thought of Wang Ba, who had occupied the five-clawed devil dragon's body in the past. He was also the current Diyong. He left a long time ago. He must be after something for him to take such great pains. At this moment, Han Xuanai was almost certain the person who took Duan Ling Tian away was Di Yong. However, she could not figure out why Di Yong would do such a thing. If there's something on Brother Ling Tian's body that he's interested in, it's none other than the Devil Seal Tablet. However, would he dare to take the Devil Seal Tablet even if it was given to him? The Devil Seal Tablet could be said to be the nemesis of demon cultivators. The Devil Seal Tablet could be called a Super Saint weapon and was even listed in the 10 Great Saint Weapons ranking because of this characteristic. Apart from that, it did not have any other advantages compared to other Saint weapons. When Han Xuanai thought of this, she felt it was impossible. Could it be because of that pagoda? Soon after, Han Xuanai recalled the small pagoda. She and Di Yong could not come into contact with the small pagoda, but Duan Ling Tian could. With just a glance, she could tell the small pagoda was not an ordinary item. It was to the extent that she had a feeling. The small pagoda was not inferior to one of the Super Saint weapons on the 10 Great Saint Weapons ranking, the Clear Sky Pagoda. If that's really the case, Brother Ling Tian should be safe for now. When Han Xuanai thought of this, she heaved a sigh of relief. If I were him, I would definitely not let Brother Ling Tian come into contact with the Devil Seal Tablet if I wanted to seize the pagoda and force it to reveal its secret. After all, he's a demon cultivator. Brother Ling Tian can kill him if he uses the Devil Seal Tablet. In that case, the biggest possibility is that he first obtained Brother Ling Tian's spatial ring and used his spiritual energy to erase the ownership seal on it. Han Xuanai gradually calmed down and made a logical deduction. The ownership seal on the spatial ring on the mortal continent was weak. Chapter 1354. I'm not dead? Duan Ling Tian regained his consciousness without him noticing. All he felt was dizziness. I remember. I was sucked into a whirlpool that suddenly appeared on the surface of the sea. The whirlpool's energy was very strong. Even though I'm almost invincible under the mortal shedding stage, I couldn't withstand it. That energy was above the mortal shedding stage. Later on, I think I was knocked out by the whirlpool's waves. Shaking his head, Duan Ling Tian recalled what happened before he fainted. What's this place? When Duan Ling Tian regained his senses, he sized up his surroundings and discovered he was on a small island. Not only was this small island desolate and uninhabited, but it was also very small. Looking around, all he could see was a vast ocean. Where's my spatial ring? Soon after, Duan Lingtian realized his spatial ring was missing. Horror dawned on him immediately. Are you looking for it? Just when Duan Lingtian's expression changed drastically, an indifferent voice resonated from the sky. Subsequently, a tall figure appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. This was a black-clothed middle-aged man. He was tall and sturdy, and he stood there like an iron tower. He was holding a spatial ring in his hand. Duan Lingtian was very familiar with this spatial ring. It was his grade 1 spirit weapon spatial ring. Bastard! Duan Lingtian could not help but frown when he shifted his gaze from the spatial ring to the black-clad middle-aged man's face. Why are you here? Also, why is my spatial ring in your hands? The black-clad middle-aged man was none other than Di Yong, who had left the overseas Saint Islands Half Moon Island long ago. To be more precise, he was Di Yong, who was possessed by Wang Ba's soul. As for Wang Ba, he was the devil cultivator's remnant soul that had lodged in Duan Lingtian's body. He had once saved Duan Lingtian's life in order to find a suitable body for himself. Kid, where is that pagoda? Di Yong did not answer Duan Lingtian. Instead, he asked in a deep voice. After he erased the master recognition seal on Duan Lingtian's spatial ring with his spiritual energy at the mortal shedding stage, he claimed ownership of Duan Lingtian's spatial ring. However, he did not find the exquisite little pagoda in there. At that moment, he realized that Duan Lingtian had hidden the exquisite pagoda somewhere else. As for whether or not he was with Duan Lingtian, he did not doubt it. Although he couldn't see where Duan Lingtian had hidden the small pagoda, with the small pagoda's ability to change its size, it should have been hidden in an inconspicuous place by Duan Lingtian. How did you remove the ownership of my storage ring? At this moment, Duan Lingtian discovered that the connection between him and the storage ring had been severed, and his expression changed drastically. Spiritual energy above the mortal shedding stage can easily erase the master recognition seal on a spatial ring below the saint weapon grade. Di Yong said nonchalantly, I know that pagoda must be with you. Tell me, where did you hide it? I can't believe I couldn't find it. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. After a long while, he looked at Di Yong and sneered, looks like you've claimed ownership of the spatial ring? What? The devil seal tablet didn't give you any trouble? At this moment he felt a little regretful. If he had known this day would come, he would have upgraded the spatial ring to the quasi-royal grade spirit weapon grade. In that case, the spatial ring would have entered the threshold of a saint weapon, and he could avoid the master recognition seal on it by force. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Di Yong's face turned grave. Naturally, the devil seal tablet had looked for trouble with him. When he claimed ownership of Duan Lingtian's spatial ring, the devil seal tablet seemed to have sensed something and became restless. After carefully inspecting everything in Duan Lingtian's spatial ring and not discovering the existence of the pagoda, he immediately removed the master recognition seal on the spatial ring. He was really worried that the devil seal tablet would break out of its seal and suppress his soul again. Once bitten, twice shy. Where's Xuanai? After Duan Lingtian calmed down, he asked in a deep voice. Now he knew why Di Yong appeared in front of him. It was because of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Come to think of it, Di Yong must have seen how extraordinary the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was that day, and that was why he coveted it. However, Di Yong was not in a hurry to make a move because he was worried about the devil seal tablet in his hand and Xuanai. He had only made his move today. When he was unconscious, he took off his spatial ring and forcefully removed the master recognition seal on the spatial ring so that he could not come into contact with the devil seal tablet. Duan Lingtian knew this very well. To Di Yong, without the devil seal tablet, he was equivalent to a toothless tiger. There was nothing to be afraid of. That little girl is probably bringing people to look for you now. Di Yong sneered and said confidently, however, it's impossible for them to find you. Duan Lingtian heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that Xuanai was fine. Before I fainted, the whirlpool that appeared on the surface of the sea was caused by you? After calming down, it was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to make a guess based on his current encounter. However, he still looked at Di Yong coldly and asked in a deep voice. He wanted to confirm it with Di Yong. That's right. Di Yong admitted without hesitation. That whirlpool was caused by the sea-engulfing beast. However, that sea-engulfing beast was given an enslavement seal by me. Under my control, it appeared in the sea that you passed by. For today, to avoid that little girl and to take off your spatial ring, I've put in a lot of effort. In the end, God rewards those who persevere, and I've succeeded. A brilliant smile appeared on Di Yong's face when he reached the end of his sentence. I advise you to hand over that pagoda obediently. As long as you tell me how to not be rejected by it, I'll spare your life. Soon after, the smile on De Yong's face disappeared as he said to Duan Lingtian with a solemn expression. You mean, if I don't hand over the pagoda, you'll kill me? Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold and his voice became even more solemn. I won't kill you. I'll torture you and make you tell me the location of that pagoda and the secret of that pagoda in endless pain. However, if I'm the one who tortures you to tell me everything, I'll still kill you in the end. A smile appeared on De Yong's face again. It was a sinister smile. I'll kill you first. As soon as De Yong's words left his mouth, Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed fiercely. At the same time he shot up into the sky like a cannonball. A bow and an arrow appeared in his hand. Arrowlight strike. After pulling the bowstring into a full moon, Duan Lingtian released the arrow in his hand and allowed it to shoot toward De Yong like a bolt of lightning. Child's play. In the face of Duan Lingtian's sudden attack, De Yong looked indifferent as he raised his hand slowly. Suddenly, a vast aura accompanied by an invisible force knocked away Duan Lingtian's arrow in the blink of an eye. However, it did not end there. At the same time the air above Duan Lingtian's head vibrated. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian felt as though a gigantic palm had appeared above his head and forcefully pressed him down. During this process his strength was suppressed. Bang! A deafening loud noise reverberated. Without the slightest suspense, Duan Lingtian's entire body was forcefully pressed down and fiercely came into close contact with the ground, and the collision caused him to feel dizzy. Is this the power of the immortal shedding stage? This was the only thought that appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind when he felt intense pain all over his body. At this moment he even had a feeling. In front of De Yong he was just like an ant. An ant that could be trampled on as he wished. Naturally, he knew this was because of the gap between his ability and the immortal shedding stage. Even if I've comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity and can be said to be invincible below the immortal shedding stage, I'll still be defeated if I encounter someone on the immortal shedding stage. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was deeply aware of this. Unfortunately, I've just comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity not long ago and haven't touched the threshold of the immortal shedding stage yet. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in such a passive situation. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Boy, my patience is limited. If you're unwilling to tell me, I have many ways to make you tell me. Don't forget, I'm a devil cultivator. Moreover, I used to be a saint stage devil cultivator. De Yong said impatiently. When he reached the end of his sentence he threatened Duan Lingtian. Xuanai is right. A devil cultivator is a devil cultivator. None of them are easy to deal with. It's a pity that I didn't take her words to heart. Duan Lingtian said coldly. What I regret the most now is that I didn't use the Devil Seal tablet to suppress you back then to prevent future trouble. There's no such thing as a regret pill in this world. De Yong said calmly, I'll give you another 10 breaths of time. Either you hand over the pagoda and tell me its secret, or you slowly enjoy the big gift I've prepared for you. At that time you won't have a chance anymore. I have at least 100 ways to force you to hand over the pagoda and tell me its secret. When De Yong reached the end of his sentence, his tone became colder and colder as though it came from the depths of hell. It was chilling and creepy. Duan Lingtian's heart sank when he heard De Yong's words. Huolao, do you have any ideas? After taking another deep breath, Duan Lingtian took the initiative to contact the 3-legged golden crow Huolao, who was in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. He knew that if it were not for his reminder, Huolao would not pay attention to the outside world. Although Huolao was powerful, he could not leave the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Moreover, even his strength could not be transmitted out of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The only thing that could be transmitted out was his voice. At this moment, Duan Lingtian took the initiative to contact Huolao not because he wanted Huolao to make a move. He only wanted to ask Huolao if there was any way to help him escape this calamity. Do as he says and give him the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Moreover, tell him the secret of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Chapter 1355. What? Duan Lingtian did not expect Huolao to ask him to give the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to De Yong and tell De Yong the secret of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. No. The 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda did not seem to have any secrets, right? The reason the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda did not reject him and even acknowledged him as its master was because his soul belonged to the land of Yanhuang. Now, even if he wanted to give the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to someone else, he could not remove the connection between him and the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It was as though the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was pestering him. Huolao, even if I give the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to him, I can't make the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda acknowledge him as its master. Do you have a way? Duan Lingtian asked. I'm not asking you to really give him the Seven Treasures Jewel Pagoda. I'm just asking you to give it to him temporarily to buy time. I'm just stalling for time, Huolao said. Duan Lingtian finally understood. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's gaze landed on the spatial ring in Di Yong's hand. This spatial ring was his spatial ring. His Devil Seal tombstone was in there. As long as I can retrieve the Devil Seal tablet, it'll be easy to kill Di Yong. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. At this moment, an idea flashed in Duan Lingtian's mind. His eyes lit up as though he had thought of something. Walao, I've thought of a way. When the time comes, you just have to cooperate with me. Duan Lingtian greeted Huolao. Boy, you still have 3 breaths of time. If you can't make up your mind, I'll let you know what it means to wish you were dead. Di Yong's cold voice resonated. The Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is in the spatial ring in your hand. Duan Lingtian looked at Di Yong and said calmly. This saint has already recognized your storage ring as its owner. That pagoda isn't inside. Kid, this saint advises you not to play any tricks. Di Yong snorted. The killing intent in his eyes soared as if he was about to devour someone. You've seen the wonders of that pagoda before. I can change its size with just a thought. I shrunk it to the size of a speck of dust before putting it into my storage ring. Duan Lingtian glanced at Di Yong indifferently before he said slowly, let alone you. Even I wouldn't be able to find it in my spatial ring if it's not for the fact that I'm connected to it after it has acknowledged ownership. Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Di Yong frowned. Back then, the pagoda that was as tall as an adult turned into a small pagoda and fell into Duan Lingtian's hands. He had seen it with his own eyes. Therefore he did not doubt Duan Lingtian when he said that the pagoda could be big or small. With the wonders of the pagoda, it did not seem impossible for it to turn into the size of a speck of dust. I was almost fooled by you. Suddenly, Di Yong's eyes turned as a plan formed in his mind. He said coldly to Duan Lingtian, I believe that the pagoda can change its size to the size of a speck of dust. However, it might not be in the storage ring. It might be in some corner of your body. As for why you said it's in the storage ring, it's because you want me to give it to you. At that time, you'll be able to use the Devil Seal tablet to suppress me or even kill me. Do you think this saint will fall for it? When Di Yong reached the end of his sentence, he had an expression that said, I've seen through you. I have to say, your imagination is really rich. Since that's the case, you can torture me as much as you want. I'll only tell you the truth when I'm in a living hell. Duan Lingtian glanced at Di Yong in disdain. However, I'm afraid the outcome will be the same in the end. From the beginning until the end, Di Yong had been staring at Duan Lingtian's eyes and the changes in his expression. He realized, from the beginning until the end, Duan Lingtian did not seem guilty at all. He could not help but suspect this. Could it be that Duan Lingtian had really turned the pagoda into the size of a speck of dust and kept it in the spatial ring? The more he thought about it, the more he felt this was a possibility. Now you can use your technique. In any case, you'll never be able to obtain that pagoda in your lifetime. Duan Lingtian said calmly. It was as though a dead pig was not afraid of boiling water. When Duan Lingtian saw Di Yong's gaze on his dantian, a cold gleam flashed in the depth of his eyes. He could guess Di Yong's thoughts and could not help but sneer. What? Do you think the Devil Seal tablet won't be able to suppress you after destroying my dantian? Don't forget, the power that activated the Devil Seal tombstone is what I injected into the tombstone. Even if you destroy my cultivation base, as long as I take out the Devil Seal tablet and activate it with the energy I've injected into it, it'll be easy for me to kill you. You should know this better than anyone else. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, there was a hint of mockery in his eyes when he looked at Di Yong. Di Yong's face turned grave immediately. He had really forgotten about this earlier because of the heat in his head. All right. There's one more thing I have to tell you. That pagoda is a rare treasure. It's closely related to the 10 Super Saint weapons on the 10 Great Saint weapons ranking in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian looked deeply at Di Yong and lied without even blinking his eyes. When he saw the interest in Di Yong's eyes, he continued to lie. The 10 Super Saint weapons were all created by the pagoda spirit in the pagoda. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, Di Yong's eyes lit up, and his breathing quickened. The 10 Super Saint weapons were all created by the pagoda spirit in the pagoda? At this moment, his heart burned even more fervently. He was even more eager to obtain that mysterious pagoda. However, he did not lose his mind because of this. Instead, he remained clear-headed. Do you think I'll believe you just because you said that? What proof do you have? De Yong tried his best to suppress his excitement as he asked Duan Lingtian calmly. Proof? I'm afraid you'll have to wait until you obtain the pagoda before you'll know if I'm telling the truth. As long as I remove the ownership of the pagoda and hand it over to you, you'll naturally be able to contact the pagoda spirit in the pagoda. Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly. At that time, you'll naturally be able to find out if it's true or not. Moreover, with your cultivation base at the intermediate mortal shedding stage, don't tell me you're afraid of my tricks? Even if I want to harm you and take out the Devil Seal tablet, you'll still be able to kill me the moment you see the Devil Seal tablet before it suppresses you, right? Duan Lingtian said. Of course, I'll be able to kill you at that moment. However, at that time I'll definitely die as well. De Yong snorted coldly. If Duan Lingtian really took out the Devil Seal tablet, he would be able to kill Duan Lingtian before the tablet suppressed him. However, he would not be able to escape death as well. What? Do you think I'll perish together with you? Duan Lingtian smiled brightly. His eyes flashed with a hint of mockery as he mocked De Yong for thinking too highly of himself. Upon hearing this, De Yong's eyes flickered for a moment before he nodded. I can return your spatial ring to you. However, I'll be fully focused on monitoring your every move. If you dare to take out the Devil Seal tablet, I'll kill you immediately. I can give you the pagoda if you want. However, you'll have to swear on the 99 heavenly tribulation that as long as you obtain the pagoda, you won't make things difficult for me, let alone kill me. Duan Lingtian said solemnly, otherwise I won't do as you wish even if I die. Sure. As long as you don't play any tricks and give the pagoda to me so it can acknowledge me as its master. I'm willing to swear. As soon as De Yong finished speaking, he pricked his finger and began to swear the oath. Accompanied by 9 claps of thunder, the tribulation oath, the 99 heavenly tribulation, responded to De Yong's oath. In De Yong's opinion, as long as he could obtain the pagoda, it did not matter if he killed Duan Lingtian or not. Although Duan Lingtian's innate talent was not good, De Yong did not think much of him. At this moment, De Yong had also let down his guard. He could see Duan Lingtian's sincerity when he asked him to swear the oath. This made him feel much more at ease. Don't play any tricks and don't doubt my strength. After making the oath, De Yong passed the spatial ring in his hand to Duan Lingtian. At the same time he extended his spiritual energy and locked onto Duan Lingtian. If Duan Lingtian dared to take out the Devil Seal tablet, he would kill Duan Lingtian immediately. He had spent some time with Duan Lingtian, so he knew Duan Lingtian would not choose to die together with him. Therefore he was not worried Duan Lingtian would take the risk out of desperation. After Duan Lingtian took the spatial ring, he performed the ownership claim on the spatial ring again and put it on his finger. At the same time, with just a thought, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his ears shrunk rapidly. After it became the size of a speck of dust, it floated out and landed on his hand that was wearing the spatial ring. I've already taken it out, Duan Lingtian said. When De Yong heard this, he immediately looked at Duan Lingtian's hand. However, he did not see anything. He could not help but frown. When he saw a small black dot appear in Duan Lingtian's hand, and the small black dot ceaselessly grew larger and transformed into an exquisite little pagoda, his eyes instantly lit up like the dazzling stars in the night sky. What a wonderful treasure! De Yong exclaimed. All right, I've already removed the ownership claim on it. Soon after, Duan Lingtian handed the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his hand to De Yong. As long as you merge your spiritual energy into the pearl at the top of it, it'll recognize you as its master. Then you won't be rejected by its energy anymore. Is this how you made it recognize you as its master? De Yong asked as his eyes flashed. He still remembered. Back then, whether it was him or Han Xuanai, they had no way of touching this pagoda. However, Duan Lingtian had taken the pagoda in the blink of an eye. At that time he did not even think of using his spiritual energy. Yes. Now you'll recognize it as your master before you take it. Duan Lingtian nodded. When De Yong heard this, he split a portion of his spiritual energy and merged it into the pearl at the top of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The rest of his spiritual energy was still used to monitor Duan Lingtian. He was worried that Duan Lingtian would plot against him at this time. You're quite careful. Chapter 1356. Almost as soon as De Yong took the seven treasures exquisite pagoda, an old snort exploded in his mind. He was so shocked that his body could not help but tremble. Who are you? De Yong's expression changed drastically. I'm the pagoda spirit of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda, the three-legged golden crow. The ancient voice spoke. Pagoda spirit. De Yong's eyes lit up when he heard that. He stared at the exquisite pagoda in his hand. So it's called the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. When the cold voice exploded in De Yong's mind, De Yong's spiritual energy that was monitoring Duan Lingtian had already relaxed a little. Now that the three-legged golden crow had spoken, De Yong's attention was completely attracted by the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. Even he did not realize that the spiritual energy he used to monitor Duan Lingtian had already been withdrawn. Now, just as De Yong looked at the seven treasures exquisite pagoda in his hand, an ancient voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears, causing Duan Lingtian to snap back to reality. Whoosh! In an instant, a stone tablet appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand. It was a stone tablet with a chipped corner. It was the Devil Seal tablet. As soon as the Devil Seal tablet was in his hand, killing intent shot out from Duan Lingtian's eyes. He lifted it up and smashed it down on De Yong's head. A rolling force surged out of the Devil Seal tablet. Oh no! De Yong, who heard the sound of wind whistling in his ears, completely snapped back to reality. His expression changed drastically as he realized that he had made a huge mistake. He had actually been disturbed by the pagoda spirit of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda, causing him to withdraw the spiritual energy that was monitoring Duan Lingtian. De Yong did not even have time to turn around before he was enveloped by the Devil Seal tablet's energy, let alone attack. Bang! Duan Lingtian raised the demon sealing tombstone in his hand and slammed it down on De Yong's head. The raging black energy entered De Yong's body as if it was nothing. No! In an instant, De Yong let out a shrill scream. Then his body trembled and he fell to the ground like a dead dog. His soul had been suppressed by the Devil Seal tombstone, and his soul had been destroyed. Idiot! After glancing coldly at De Yong's corpse, Duan Lingtian raised his hand and retrieved the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. At the same time he said to the seven treasures exquisite pagoda, Hualao, thanks. If it weren't for Hualao's cooperation, he would have been killed by De Yong even if he had managed to retrieve the demon sealing tombstone. This stone tablet is not bad. Hualao praised the demon sealing tombstone before he changed the topic and said, take his dragon orb. With his dragon orb, we can completely repair the second level of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard Hualao's words. That's right, I almost forgot. The dragon orb in the five-clawed devil dragon's body can repair the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up as he looked at De Yong, who had transformed into his true form after his death. A five-clawed devil dragon that was over 100 meters long lay there quietly without making a sound. It's better to bring his true form in. Although he's only a five-clawed divine dragon, his entire body is a treasure to you right now. After a while Hualao spoke again. Duan Lingtian nodded and brought the five-clawed devil dragon into the first level of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. Then he took the dragon orb from its body and handed it to Hualao. After Hualao received the dragon orb, he went to work. This is a real divine dragon, his entire body is a treasure. That's right. Dragon tendon. Duan Lingtian, who was studying the five-clawed devil dragon from top to bottom, had a flash of inspiration in his mind. He quickly pulled out the dragon tendon from the five-clawed devil dragon's body. This is a real divine dragon's dragon tendon. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he saw the dragon tendon that was completely black and emitting a black glow. The dragon tendon of a worm dragon can't be compared to the dragon tendon of a five-clawed divine dragon. Soon after, Duan Lingtian took out his royal great spirit bow and removed the worm dragon's dragon tendon from it. He replaced it with the dragon tendon that he had just pulled out from the five-clawed devil dragon. With the dragon tendon of a five-clawed devil dragon, the bow's power will definitely be stronger. Duan Lingtian smiled as he stretched out his hand to pull the new bowstring. The bowstring was stiff in his hand, and he only managed to pull it a little when he exerted all his strength without holding back. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to tell that Duan Lingtian had pulled the bowstring in an arc, as expected of the dragon tendon of a five-clawed divine dragon. I can't believe I can only pull it a little even after exerting all my strength. Duan Lingtian was not disappointed in this situation. Instead, he was a little excited. This was because this meant the bow in his hand was not as simple as a royal-grade spirit weapon. Crack. Just when Duan Ling Tian was feeling excited about obtaining the dragon tendon of a five-clawed devil dragon, he felt his hands that were holding the bow and bowstring tremble. A crisp sound resonated in the air. When he returned to his senses, he was shocked to discover that the bow had been broken. The bow had been broken. Upon seeing this, Duan Ling Tian was dumbfounded. The dragon tendon of a five-clawed devil dragon had broken the bow? In fact, his bow was a royal-grade spirit weapon. A royal-grade spirit weapon on Cloud Continent was equivalent to a human-rank mediocre saint weapon in the Dao Martial Saint Land. A human-rank mediocre saint weapon was broken by the dragon tendon of a five-clawed divine dragon? At this moment, Duan Ling Tian had a deeper understanding of how terrifying the dragon tendon of a five-clawed divine dragon was. It seems like I'll need a more powerful bow to use this dragon tendon as a bowstring. A human-rank mediocre saint weapon won't do. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Boom, 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 boom. Duan Ling Tian was staring at the dragon tendon of the five-clawed divine dragon in his hand. The more he looked at it, the more he liked it. He felt a tremor under his feet. It was the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It was as though an earthquake had occurred. The second level has been opened. At the same time, Hua Lao's voice resonated and woke Duan Ling Tian up. Duan Ling Tian turned his head to look in the distance. Hua Lao, who was originally standing at the end of the stairs, greeted him and went up to the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It's repaired? Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up when he saw this. He quickly followed after him. The dragon pearl of a five-clawed divine dragon is really extraordinary. Duan Ling Tian, who followed behind Hua Lao and successfully went up to the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, sighed emotionally. What a rich heaven and earth spirit energy. As soon as Duan Ling Tian entered the second level, he could feel the heaven and earth spirit energy in the air on the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was much richer than the first level. The two levels were not on the same level at all. This is the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The cultivation environment is better than the first level. The flow of time is slower. If we stay here for 3 days, only 1 day will pass outside. Hua Lao said to Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Hua Lao, where's the Jasper Celestial Sword? After taking a deep breath, Duan Ling Tian recalled the Celestial Supreme Treasure that Hua Lao had told him about. It was the Celestial Supreme Treasure that was hidden on the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, the Jasper Celestial Sword. Duan Ling Tian sized up his surroundings. He noticed the environment on the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was much better than the first level. Not only were there flowers and trees, but there was also a spacious courtyard. There was a pond in the courtyard. The ground around the pond was covered with grass. Since no one usually maintained it, the grass on the ground looked messy. Whoosh. Duan Ling Tian was just about to repair the grass when he realized Hua Lao had already made a move. Hua Lao did not even see how he moved, but a fiery red light blade swept out. After the light blade swept out, it continued to expand and swept through the entire courtyard, slashing the messy grass in the courtyard. In just an instant, the atmosphere of the courtyard changed completely. At the same time, a standalone stone table appeared in Duan Ling Tian's line of sight. The stone table was blocked by the grass earlier, so Duan Ling Tian did not notice it. That sword? Is that the Jasper Celestial Sword? With just a glance, Duan Ling Tian saw 2 items placed on the stone table. One of the items was a sheathed sword that lay there quietly. The hilt and scabbard of the sheathed sword looked very ordinary. It was just like an ordinary sword. However, Duan Ling Tian knew in his heart that this was definitely not an ordinary sword. It might even be the Jasper Celestial Sword, the Celestial Supreme Treasure in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It's the Jasper Celestial Sword. As soon as he flew to the stone table, Hua Lao's voice entered Duan Ling Tian's ears. It made Duan Ling Tian feel excited. A smile appeared on his face as his eyes shone brightly. Without any hesitation, Duan Ling Tian reached for the Jasper Celestial Sword. This is a celestial sword. With this, I'm afraid even a person at the mortal shedding stage won't be able to block my sword, right? However, the smile on Duan Ling Tian's face quickly froze. This was because he realized he could not pick up the Jasper Celestial Sword at all. The Jasper Celestial Sword lay quietly on the stone table as though it had taken root and sprouted. It did not move at all. Hua Lao, what's going on? Duan Ling Tian tried for a while more, but the Jasper Celestial Sword still did not move. He could only ask Hua Lao, who was next to him. Your strength is too weak, so it's normal that you can't pick up the Jasper Celestial Sword. Hualao replied. Hualao, you mean? This Jasper Celestial Sword is very heavy? Duan Lingtian asked with his eyes wide open. Yes. Hualao nodded. With a raise of his hand, he reached for the Jasper Celestial Sword as well. This time the Jasper Celestial Sword moved. However, it only moved a little before it was placed back down by Hualao. Beads of sweat could be seen on Hualao's forehead. I've never been so weak in my entire life. Hualao heaved a long sigh. He was a three-legged golden crow, a primitive species in the land of Yanhuang. The moment he was born, he possessed the strength to move mountains and overturn seas. With a flap of his wings, the divine sunfire would burn everything in the world. However, today he could not even pick up a celestial sword. Such a heavy sword. If I want to use it, how long will I have to wait? Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. There was a celestial supreme treasure in front of him, but he could not use it. Duan Lingtian was the only one who knew how he felt at this moment. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian's gaze reluctantly left the Jasper Celestial Sword and landed on another item beside the Jasper Celestial Sword. The moment he saw the item, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up. A bow. The item that appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes was a bow. It looked very shabby. It did not have a bowstring and there were 10 notches on the body of the bow. It looked like a tattered piece of trash. However, Duan Lingtian was clear in his heart. Chapter 1357. Without any hesitation, Duan Lingtian reached for the bow. Since he had learned his lesson, he used all his strength this time. However, even if he used all his strength, it was still strenuous. Although he had picked up the bow, he was still far from being able to use it freely. I'm afraid I'll have to wait until I break through to the mortal shedding stage before I can use this bow freely. Duan Lingtian looked at the bow in his hand and muttered to himself. He took a deep breath and put the bow down again. He looked at Hualao and asked, Hualao, what's this bow without a bowstring? Duan Lingtian did not notice that Hualao's eyes flashed when he picked up the bow. The sun-shooting bow. Hualao answered as calmly as he could in the face of Duan Lingtian's question. However, even if he tried to remain calm, one could still hear the ripples in his voice. What? Duan Lingtian's eyes widened when he heard Hualao's words. Hualao, why you're not joking, right? It's the sun-shooting bow? Looking at the rusty bow with 10 notches on the stone table, Duan Lingtian's face was filled with shock and disbelief. Naturally, he had heard of the sun-shooting bow before. In the ancient myths and legends from his previous life, Hou had used the sun-shooting bow to shoot the sun, which was also the 9 golden crows. Hou had relied on the sun-shooting bow to kill the 9 golden crows. Hualao. Duan Lingtian looked at Hualao with a complicated gaze. Hualao was the 3-legged golden crow that had escaped from Hou's arrow. His other 9 brothers had died under Hou's sun-shooting bow. It's all in the past. Hualao sighed. When he saw Duan Lingtian's expression, he knew Duan Lingtian had heard of the sun-shooting bow and knew who the original owner of the sun-shooting bow was. Hualao, why is the sun-shooting bow here? Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and asked. Back then I killed Hou and avenged my 9 brothers. His sun-shooting bow was in my hands. However, the good times didn't last long. Dipankara, that old monk, came looking for me and suppressed me in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. This sun-shooting bow naturally followed me into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Hualao said. You killed Hou? Duan Lingtian opened his eyes wide, and his face was filled with disbelief. Legend had it that 9 out of 10 golden crows were killed by Hou, leaving only one that fled in a sorry state. And it was that golden crow that fled in a sorry state that killed Hou? Hou was born with divine strength. With the body of a mortal, he used the sun-shooting bow to kill 10 of my brothers. At that time, because of the distance, he had the advantage. I could only flee. Hualao seemed to see Duan Lingtian's disbelief. He said slowly, later I found an opportunity to get close to him and killed him with a sneak attack. Duan Lingtian came to a realization. He was using a bow and arrow now, so he naturally knew the advantages and disadvantages of the bow and arrow. If someone got close to him, the bow and arrow would be useless. To think that the legendary sun-shooting bow is actually like this. How disappointing. Duan Lingtian shook his head as he looked at the sun-shooting bow on the stone table. So the sun-shooting bow wasn't like this. Back then, after I killed Hou, I vented my anger on this sun-shooting bow. Hualao said, Most of the sun-shooting bow strength comes from the 10 heavenly jewels on the bow. At that time, I used the sun god fire to forcefully temper the sun-shooting bow for 81 days before I finally removed the 10 heavenly jewels on it. Then, I removed the bowstring on the sun-shooting bow and threw it and the 10 heavenly jewels away. That's how the sun-shooting bow became like this. Huo Lao finished speaking in one breath. In that case, this sun-shooting bow is no longer the sun-shooting bow with unparalleled might from back then? Duan Tian smiled wryly. Huo Lao, why did you have to do this back then? It's fine if you killed Ho Yi to avenge your brother. This sun-shooting bow is a treasure. How could you do this to it? If you didn't destroy this sun-shooting bow back then, I would have had a handy weapon. The wry smile on Duan Tian's face became even more pronounced as he spoke. In his opinion, Huo Lao was too much of a prodigal. Although this sun-shooting bow is no longer as powerful as it was in the past, it was still a top celestial supreme treasure in the past. Even my divine sun fire can't do anything to it. Huo Lao said, wasn't your bow broken by the little devil dragon's dragon tendon earlier? It's perfect to match the little devil dragon's dragon tendon. Its power might not be as powerful as a celestial supreme treasure, but on this planet, it's still a first-class divine weapon. Huo Lao raised his hand and grabbed the broken sun-shooting bow before he passed it to Duan Tian. That's true. It's perfect to match the 5-clawed devil dragon's dragon tendon. Duan Tian nodded and took the bow, but he still looked a little disappointed. It would have been better if it was a complete sun-shooting bow. What a pity! If it was a complete sun-shooting bow, it would have been heavier than the Jasper Immortal Sword. Only 5 of the 10 heavenly jewels embedded in it would have been as heavy as the Jasper Immortal Sword. Huo Lao added, a complete sun-shooting bow is heavier than the Jasper Immortal Sword? And twice as heavy? The corner of Duan Tian's mouth twitched when he heard this. If that was the case, what kind of freak was Ho Yi? He had killed 9 three-legged golden crows with the sun-shooting bow with his mortal body. Was he really human? After taking a deep breath, Duan Tian looked at Huo Lao and voiced his doubts. Ho Yi's mortal body doesn't mean he's just an ordinary person. It's just that he can't produce celestial origin energy in his body. He mainly cultivates his body. Even if he's bare-handed, ordinary celestials are no match for him. Huo Lao explained. I see. Realization dawned on Duan Tian. He was wondering how an ordinary person could lift a complete sun-shooting bow that was twice as heavy as the Jasper Immortal Sword. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Duan Tian seemed to have recalled something. He asked, Huo Lao, the Jasper Immortal Sword and the sun-shooting bow are both celestial supreme treasures. Why isn't the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda heavy? The 7 treasures exquisite pagoda isn't heavy, it's only for its owner. If the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda didn't acknowledge you as its owner, you wouldn't be able to lift it either. Huo Lao said. But, didn't the sea monster carry the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda around? Duan Tian asked in confusion. As it turned out, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was in the hands of the sea monster in the depths of the ocean not far from Half Moon Island. According to the 3 Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island, it was often carried around by the sea monster. That's because I didn't want to stay in the same place with the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, so I controlled its weight. Huo Lao explained, I'm the pagoda spirit of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda after all. Although I can't affect its acknowledgement of its owner, I can still control its weight. I see. Duan Tian's doubts disappeared after listening to Huo Lao's explanation. If that's the case, this incomplete sun-shooting bow is the most suitable for me right now. Duan Tian smiled brightly as he looked at the rusty sun-shooting bow in his hand. Subsequently, Duan Tian lifted his hand and hung the 5-clawed devil dragon's dragon tendon on the sun-shooting bow. Just as Huo Lao had said, the body of the sun-shooting bow was indeed tough. No matter how hard he tried to pull the bowstring, the sun-shooting bow did not move at all. Huo Lao, what's the original bowstring of the sun-shooting bow made of? Duan Tian suddenly thought of this and could not help but ask. It's also a dragon tendon. Huo Lao replied. Dragon tendon? Duan Tian's eyes widened. Isn't the sun-shooting bow a top celestial supreme treasure? Even the dragon tendon of a 5-clawed divine dragon isn't qualified to be its bowstring, right? The dragon tendon of a 5-clawed divine dragon isn't even qualified to be the bowstring of an ordinary celestial bow, let alone be the bowstring of the sun-shooting bow. The bowstring of the sun-shooting bow is the dragon tendon of a 9-clawed winged dragon. Huo Lao explained. 9-clawed winged dragon? Duan Lingtian could not help but be puzzled when he heard this. What's that? A divine dragon too? The nine-clawed winged dragon is also known as the nine-clawed divine dragon. Hualao explained patiently. Nine-clawed divine dragon. Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed. There's actually a nine-clawed divine dragon in this world? I thought the five-clawed divine dragon was the top existence among dragons. I didn't expect there to be a nine-clawed divine dragon as well. The five-clawed divine dragon is only considered to be the top on planets like planet Yanhuang and this planet. Hualao said, when you have the strength to leave this planet in the future, you'll realize that there are not only nine-clawed divine dragons in this world, but there are also six-clawed divine dragons, seven-clawed divine dragons and eight-clawed divine dragons as well. Duan Lingtian nodded. His biggest goal now was to return to Earth. If he wanted to return to Earth, he would have to leave the planet he was currently on. Therefore his goal was to leave this planet as well. With my current strength, I'm still far from being able to wield the sun-shooting bow freely. I should be able to do it when I break through to the mortal shedding stage. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as he looked at the sun-shooting bow in his hand. At this moment he was even more eager to break through to the mortal shedding stage. I wonder when I'll be able to integrate my profundity into my body to help me open up Saint Veins. Duan Lingtian was filled with anticipation about how many Saint Veins he would be able to open up after he broke through to the mortal shedding stage. With the help of the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity and 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity, he was confident the number of Saint Veins he would open in his body would not be any less than Xuanai. However, I can't cultivate for the time being. Xuanai must still be looking for me. When Duan Lingtian thought of this, he bade farewell to Hualao and left the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda with just a thought. With a lift of his hand, Duan Lingtian held the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda that was the size of a speck of dust in his hand. It's a pity that the space inside the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is unstable before the 4th level is repaired. Otherwise, I can hide inside even if I encounter a powerful enemy. Chapter 1358. That's not right. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Duan Lingtian's mind. He could not help but ask the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, Hualao, didn't you say that the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is a top immortal supreme treasure and has a terrifying weight? If I hide inside and it shrinks to hide, it shouldn't be flipped over, right? That way I won't be blasted out. Duan Lingtian thought of this in a flash. Before the 4th level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is repaired, even if a gust of wind blows, the space inside will be unstable. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's question, Hualao explained, apart from me, anything with life will be blasted out at that time. You, the master, are no exception. Upon hearing Hualao's words, Duan Lingtian's thoughts that had just become active quieted down again. He knew that he was overthinking things. I don't know where this place is. Xuanai must still be looking for me. Duan Lingtian stepped into the air and left the small island beneath his feet. He stood in the air and kept looking at his surroundings. All he could see was the boundless sea. He could not find his direction at all. At this time, it would be great if I had a compass like I did on Earth in my previous life. No, even if the sun here is the same as the sun on Earth in my previous life, I would still be able to identify the direction. The problem is, there's not only one sun here. In this season, there are 2 other suns rising from different directions. Duan Lingtian sighed and asked Hualao. Hualao could not help him either. At this time he could only search around on his own. I'll go in this direction. After choosing a direction, Duan Lingtian quickly flew out. However, after traveling at full speed for a month, he still did not see any land. He did not even see a slightly larger island. Moreover, along the way he had encountered many ferocious wild beasts. There were a few times when he almost lost his life. At this moment, Duan Lingtian flew above the sea. He did not dare to get too close to the sea for fear of being killed. This feeling made Duan Lingtian feel very aggrieved. With my strength, I can be considered as the best on Cloud Continent and the overseas Saint Islands. However, it's only ordinary here. If I'm not mistaken, this place should be close to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and guessed to himself. Moreover, the gravity here is obviously much stronger than Cloud Continent and the overseas Saint Islands. According to Xuanai, the Dao Martial Saint Land and the Saint Islands can't be compared to the continent and the Saint Islands. Just like how I can only fly. If I'm here on Cloud Continent and the Saint Island, I can't. Duan Lingtian shook his head and continued to fly forward. There's an island in front. After another half a month, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he saw an island. It was a small island that was isolated in the vast sea. After observing his surroundings for a while and making sure it was safe, Duan Lingtian stepped on the air and landed on the small island. The small island was barren. There was no sign of life at all. I should cultivate here until I reach the mortal shedding stage before I leave. Otherwise, with my current strength, I might die in the vast sea. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as his heart jolted. If he really died in the vast sea without even making it to the Dao Martial Saint Land, it would be the biggest joke in the world. Duan Lingtian found a secluded place and dug a cave for himself. He cultivated inside. The cave was very calm. There was no wind or rain, but it was slightly dark. Soon after, the cave was illuminated by the luminous pearl Duan Lingtian took out. At the same time, Duan Lingtian took out the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The tiny 7 treasures exquisite pagoda landed in the corner of the cave. Duan Lingtian's heart jolted as he entered the first level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Hua Lao. After entering, Duan Lingtian saw Hua Lao, who was resting with his eyes closed not far away. He greeted him. Upon hearing that, Hua Lao opened his eyes and nodded. Hua Lao. Why don't you go to the 2nd level? Isn't the cultivation environment on the 2nd level better? Duan Lingtian asked in confusion. I've always stayed on the 1st level. I'm used to it. Hua Lao said. There were 7 treasures in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Each of the 7 treasures occupied a level. The 1st level was its territory. Duan Lingtian nodded and did not say much. He went up to the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda on his own. As soon as he reached the 2nd level, Duan Lingtian noticed there was a wooden house in the courtyard with a pond. There was no need for him to think. He knew this was built by Hua Lao. With a faint smile, Duan Lingtian walked into the wooden house and sat on the bed before he began to cultivate. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, divine dragon form. At this moment, the vast origin energy in Duan Lingtian's body followed the 9 dragons war sovereign technique's last form, the divine dragon form. Apart from that, he also tried to integrate the fused profundity into it. According to Xuan'ai, he would be able to break through to the mortal shedding stage like this. Time passed by quietly. Duan Lingtian did not know how much time had passed. He had completely forgotten about the time while he was cultivating. However, very soon his mood became somewhat irritable. This was because he realized until now, he still did not show any signs of breaking through to the mortal shedding stage. The origin energy in his body still rejected the fused profundity. Of course, it was no longer as repulsive as before. After opening his eyes and waking up from his cultivation, Duan Lingtian took a deep breath. No matter what, I've improved compared to before. At this moment, Duan Lingtian had calmed down as well. He continued to cultivate. Time flew by like a white steed flitting by a crack. A year's time passed by very quickly. Of course, a year's time was in the outside world. It was not the time in the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. A total of 3 years had passed on the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. After a year, Half Moon Island was still peaceful. In the middle of Half Moon Island, in the spacious residence of the Lingtian sect, 2 beautiful ladies were sitting in front of a stone table in the courtyard of a spacious mansion. Kerr, what kind of freak do you think we're pregnant with? It's been a year, but it's only so small. One of the ladies who exuded an enchanting charm from head to toe said to the other lady who looked like a pretty girl from a humble family. Her hand was gently caressing her abdomen. One could not tell that she was pregnant with a child at first glance. Young master should already know that we're not going to give birth so soon. Otherwise he'd definitely be back. The pretty girl who looked like a pretty girl also caressed her abdomen and said with a smile. That should be the case. I wish he didn't know about this. If that's the case, I'd be able to see him sooner. It's been a year since he left. I really miss him. The lady who exuded an enchanting charm was one of Duan Lingtian's fiancées, Li Fei. The other woman's identity was obvious as well. She was none other than Ku, Sister Kerr, Sister Fei. A pleasant voice that sounded like an oriole's resonated. In just a blink of an eye, a white figure appeared in front of the 2 ladies. It was a little girl dressed in white who looked like she was carved out of jade. Little White, why didn't you play with Little Gold and Little Black? Li Fei asked with a smile when she saw the little girl. They're not fun at all. I still like to chat with my 2 sisters and my 2 little nephews. The little girl in white was Little White, the little white python in the past. Little White, you've always been like this. When your two little nephews are born in the future, I'm afraid they won't be willing to call you Aunt when they grow up. Kerr looked at Little White from head to toe and teased her. It's all right. When I break through to the mortal shedding stage, I'll be able to transform for the second time. At that time, I'll transform into a beauty like Sister Kerr and Sister Fei. Little White said nonchalantly. Speaking of the mortal shedding stage, is it really that difficult? Li Fei asked. It's very difficult. Little White nodded. Even in the Dao Martial Saint land, the mortal shedding stage is a hurdle. If I want to break through, it'll take me 1 or 2 years at the fastest. However, I'm not in a hurry. If it's possible, I'd rather wait another 8 to 10 years before I break through. That way my foundation will be more stable. Once I break through to the mortal shedding stage, I'll be able to open up more saint veins, Little White said. Little White said. We're still a long way from that step, Li Fei sighed. Little White, when do you think our child with young master will be born? Kerr asked. Sister Kerr, you and Sister Fei only got pregnant after you broke through to the Emperor Wu stage. At that time, brother was already at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage. Little White pondered for a while and said, if we don't consider the premature birth, the child will only be born after 3 to 5 years. I just hope the scoundrel can make it back in time. Li Fei said softly. A hint of longing appeared on her beautiful and enchanting face. Young master will definitely make it back in time, Kerr said with certainty. She believed Duan Lingtian would make it back to accompany her and welcome the arrival of a new life before her child was born. Touching her belly that was beginning to swell, Kerr's face was filled with a blissful smile. North of Half Moon Island in the vast ocean, 3 silhouettes came from 3 different directions and quickly gathered together. Still can't find it? The girl in yellow was travel-worn. Her childish face was almost gone and she looked pale. Miss, it's been a year. If we could find it, we would have found it long ago. One of the other 2 tall middle-aged men sighed. That's right, Mississippi, the other middle-aged man nodded. He looked at the girl in yellow carefully. Brother Ling Tian must still be alive. He must still be alive. The yellow-clad girl was none other than Han Xuanai. Chapter 1359. Miss, if he's still alive. He might have returned to Half Moon Island to wait for you. One of the middle-aged men said. I'll return to Half Moon Island to take a look. Han Xuanai's eyes flashed. She turned around and shot out like a cannonball, heading straight for Half Moon Island. However, Han Xuanai found out when she arrived at Half Moon Island. Duan Lingtian had not returned for more than a year. Standing above Half Moon Island, Han Xuanai's face was filled with self-blame. It's all because of me. If I hadn't been stubborn and didn't bring Jiao and Ashur with me, Brother Ling Tian wouldn't be in trouble. Han Xuanai only snapped back to reality after taking a deep breath. It's better if I don't show myself for now. I don't want Sister Kerr, Sister Fei and Xiaobai to worry. In the end, Han Xuanai did not show herself. Jiao, Ashur. Let's go home. Han Xuanai turned around and looked at the 2 tall middle-aged men who followed her like shadows. She said in a deep voice, I'm going to look for father. I'll find Brother Ling Tian no matter if he's dead or alive. She wanted to see him if he was alive or dead. Moreover, I have a strong instinct. Brother Ling Tian shouldn't be dead. Han Xuanai sighed in relief as she thought about it. A moment later, Han Xuanai headed north while being escorted by Jiao and Ashur. She was so fast that she created waves on the surface of the sea. It had only been a year outside, but 3 years had passed on the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. After 3 years, Duan Lingtian's 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity was 99% compatible with the origin energy in his body. According to Xuanai, I'll be able to open up the hidden saint vein in my body and break through to the early mortal shedding stage in one go after the fused profundity and origin energy are completely compatible. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat and he cultivated even harder. The immortal realm was close at hand. Currently there was only one thought left in his mind, and that was to break through to the mortal shedding stage. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Boom. Suddenly, in the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, a strong wind wreaked havoc, emitting a deafening sound. Immediately after, a series of dragon roars rang out. Even the 3-legged golden crow Hua Lao, who was on the 1st level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, noticed the commotion on the 2nd level and immediately ascended to the 2nd level. After ascending to the 2nd level, Hua Lao discovered that the wooden house he had built was already in pieces. Within the wooden house, the purple figure sat cross-legged in midair. Waves of terrifying aura were emitted from his body. Of course, this wasn't enough to attract attention. The most eye-catching thing was the illusory image of 9 divine dragons above the purple figure's head. Oh, all of them are 9-clawed divine dragons? Seeing the phantom of the 9 divine dragons, Hualao's heart skipped a beat. What happened to him? How did he resonate with the 9 divine dragons? Moreover, all of them are 9-clawed divine dragons. Even though Hualao had lived for a long time, this was his first time witnessing such a scene. In fact, he had never heard of it before. However, although he had never seen or heard of it before, he could tell that this was an extraordinary heaven and earth phenomenon. For such a heaven and earth phenomenon to appear on a person, this person was definitely not someone ordinary. Soon after, Hualao discovered that after the phantom of the 9 divine dragons let out a few dragon roars, they transformed into 9 rays of light that shot into Duan Lingtian's body and disappeared. At the same time, Duan Lingtian opened his eyes. A rolling wave of air, with him as the center, wreaked havoc in the surroundings. Ah! I've broken through. I've broken through. Duan Lingtian, who opened his eyes, laughed heartily. 15 Saint Veins. It's actually 15 Saint Veins. Compared to Xuanai, I have 5 more. The moment Duan Lingtian broke through to the mortal shedding stage, he discovered that he had opened 15 Saint Veins. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian realized a problem. Aren't there only 81 Saint Veins? I'm only at the early mortal shedding stage now, but I've already opened 15 Saint Veins. Logically speaking, I should have opened at least 16 Saint Veins when I was at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. At the mastery mortal shedding stage, at least 17 Saint Veins. At the perfection mortal shedding stage, at least 18 Saint Veins. And at the paramount mortal shedding stage, at least 19 Saint Veins. If I add all of them up, I think it's 85 Saint Veins? 85 Saint Veins? Duan Lingtian's eyes widened. Did they not say that there were only 81 hidden Saint Veins in a person's body? Even in the long history of the Dao Martial Saint Land, there were only 3 people who had opened 81 Saint Veins. These 3 people had all become powerhouses who stood at the peak of the Dao Martial Saint Land and looked down on the world. Hualao. Duan Lingtian asked Hualao curiously. Saint Veins? It seemed like it was Hualao's first time hearing about Saint Veins. The Saint Veins you mentioned are called Earth Veins in the Yanhuang planet. There are more than 81 hidden Saint Veins in any living being's body. However, it's indeed considered a top talent to be able to open 81 Saint Veins. Such a person would have great achievements. Hualao continued to say, actually, there are a total of 99 hidden Saint Veins in a person's body. The other 18 are hidden very well. It's impossible to open them unless one is blessed by nature. 99? Duan Lingtian's heart jolted when he heard Hualao's words. There were as many as 99 hidden Saint Veins in a person's body? The other 18 Saint Veins are mainly connected to the eyes, nose, and ears. Once all of them are opened, whether it's vision, smell, or hearing, it'll reach an extremely terrifying level. Those with strong vision can cultivate clairvoyance, and those with strong hearing can cultivate clairvoyance. Hualao explained. In the Jade Emperor Heaven, I've never heard of anyone opening 99 Saint Veins. Even that old monk, Tathagata, is rumored to have only opened 95 Saint Veins. The horse protector should be the one who opened the most Saint Veins after him. He opened 93 Saint Veins. Hualao said. The Gautama Buddha had opened up 95 holy meridians? Sun Wukong opened 93 Saint Veins? Duan Lingtian was shocked. Of course, Duan Lingtian knew that Saint Veins was just a name on this planet. It was not called Saint Veins on other planets and places. Hualao, what's the Jade Emperor Heaven you just mentioned? Duan Lingtian asked curiously as he recovered from his shock. Knowing this now will only add to your worries. You'll naturally know when you have the ability to leave this planet. Hualao said evasively. Duan Lingtian nodded. However, he had a few guesses in his heart. The Jade Emperor Heaven that Hualao mentioned must be related to the Jade Emperor in the ancient myths and legends in his previous life. Whether it was Hualao, Gautama Buddha, or even Sun Wukong, they should all be in the Jade Emperor Heaven. You're really talented to be able to open 15 Saint Veins now. With your talent, you'll be able to open at least 85 Saint Veins in the future. Even in the entire Jade Emperor Heaven, there won't be more than 10 people with your talent. Hualao sighed emotionally. Hualao, how many Saint Veins did you open in the past? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. 87. Hualao said. 87? When Duan Tian heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched violently. The smugness that had just risen in his heart vanished in an instant. So what if he could open 85 Saint Veins? Hua Lao, the three-legged golden crow standing in front of him, had only opened 89 Saint Veins. However, in the end he was still imprisoned in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and became a pagoda spirit. Duan Tian seemed to have been splashed with a bucket of cold water. He was completely sober now. Wait a minute. Suddenly Duan Tian seemed to have recalled something. He looked at Hua Lao in confusion and asked, Hua Lao, Yanhuang planet can produce so many talented powerhouses. Why did this planet only produce 3 people who opened 81 Saint Veins in such a long time? Yanhuang planet is the secular planet closest to the Jade Emperor Heaven. Many of the legends that people like you have heard of in the future may not be true. Although the Horse Protector and I were born on Yanhuang planet, we are not natives of Yanhuang planet. I'm a three-legged golden crow, transformed from the divine sunfire that fell from the Jade Emperor Heaven to Yanhuang planet. The Horse Protector was transformed from the 5-colored stone of the ancient goddess Nuwa. The 5-colored stone was originally an object of the Jade Emperor Heaven. In the future you'll know that many of the legendary figures you know are not natives of Yanhuang planet. Hua Lao said. What about Li Jing? Duan Tian asked again. Li Jing is a native of Yanhuang planet. It's because of this that he was recognized by the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The earliest owner of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, the old monk Dipankara, was also from Yanhuang planet. The old monk Dipankara can be considered the most outstanding person from Yanhuang planet. Hua Lao said slowly. How many Saint Meridians did he open? Duan Tian's eyes lit up. 85. Hua Lao said. Only 85? Duan Tian was stunned. Even he could open at least 85 Saint Meridians in the future. Only? Hua Lao shook his head. As a native of a secular planet, the old monk Dipankara can open 85 Saint Meridians, which is amazing. At least, before Li Jing was killed, I have never heard of a second native of Yanhuang planet who opened more than 82 Saint Meridians. Even Li Jing only opened 80 Saint Meridians. His son Neza is stronger than him and opened 81 Saint Meridians. Hua Lao continued. Moreover, the number of Saint Meridians only affects the speed of power leaving the body to a certain extent, as well as the explosive power produced in an instant. You can't judge a person's strength by the number of Saint Meridians. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.